When I first began Tunic, I was prepared for a lot of things. I was prepared for adventure. I was prepared for a challenge. I was even prepared for the worst, death. But there was something I was not prepared for: puzzles. I was not prepared for hours and hours of brainstorming, strategizing, and, to be honest, banging my head against the wall in hopes of trying to understand one more clue, one last page, one final piece of the mystery. I set out to collect all 36 of Tunic's achievements, thinking it would be a simple, challenging, and rewarding task, but no more than that. Little did I know that this journey would require every bit of my perseverance, patience, and prowess in order for me to succeed. I fought the fights. I solved the puzzles. And did I mention that I can't even read most of the manual my instructions are written in? Join me on my journey to complete Tunic. One disclaimer before we begin. Tunic is, as I have said, a very challenging game when it comes to puzzle solving. There are dozens of different mysteries to unravel, and I decided I wanted to give my best attempt at solving each one of them, without assistance. But I knew that being too strict might impede my enjoyment of the game. So, I created a little challenge for myself. I gave myself 5 hints I could use to beat the game. 5 lifelines which would allow me to reach out for help if I found myself in over my head. But don't worry, you'll see as we progress that these hints were far from outright solutions, and, if I wasn't on my game, hint or no hint, I was going to be helplessly lost in the world of Tunic. Or should I say, worlds. Perhaps I've gotten ahead of myself. Let us start at the beginning. I began my journey as all great journeys begin, by waking up on a beach. After a quick spin to make sure my limbs were loose and ready for some adventuring in this colorful, cuboid world, I made my way up the only path presented to me. By playing around, I discover a new ability, rolling. When pressing the spacebar, my little fox friend does a quick roll, using up some of this green bar on the bottom left of my screen. Up the stairs from the beach, I discover a large golden thing. It certainly looks important, but as for what purpose it may serve, I am at a loss for the time being. I continue forward, finding an empty mailbox with some strange writing, as well as a little slug creature which seems to want to do me no good at all. A nearby sign indicates that this little slug is guarding something called the Hero's Grave, but the door seems to be locked. I abandon this path for now. Returning to the mailbox, I enter through a small doorway behind it, finding myself in a small room with a treasure chest. Upon opening the chest, I am presented with a stick, some more of that strange writing I had seen earlier, as well as my first of the game's 36 achievements, a stick. With my new item in hand, I am prompted to press tab. This opens up a menu. I see at the top right 3 letters, J, K, and L. Pressing one of these while holding my only item, my newly acquired stick, equips it into that slot. With my new weapon equipped, I practice breaking some nearby pots, a time-honored gaming tradition to make sure my combat skills are up to snuff. Now, returning to my little slug foe, I give him what for. I check out a path to my right, but find it blocked by these insurmountably square bushes. So I head back to the stairs, making my way upwards, fighting a few more enemies, finding a new sign with those runic symbols, and ultimately finding this statue. Pressing space near the statue causes the sky to rapidly proceed to night and back to day again, and causes my health to regenerate. I have found a save point. Just beyond this, I find a large, imposing golden door. Approaching this, I am prompted once again to press space. I do so and the door lights up, teleporting me away to a new location entirely. I also appear to be a ghost fox now. I make my way up the stairs and, at the top, I discover 2 tuning fork-looking objects, one to my left and one to my right. By approaching each, I am able to activate them and a door, similar in design to the one that brought me here, opens up. Inside, I behold a strange sight indeed. A larger fox entrapped by spinning discs and smaller polyhedric shapes. As I approach, she awakes, and, appearing to be afraid, she bangs anxiously on the walls of her prison. As the camera zooms out, I see 3 different colored gems as the screen fades to white. I wake up back before the golden door. Making my way back, I discover a key nearby, quite handy since I just so happen to know of a locked door. I also notice a nearby telescope which I peer through to get a good look at what is to come. Blocked for now, I decide to pursue other paths. I return to the locked door and find my key fits the lock perfectly. I enter into a hallway and, in the center, I find something strange. Picking it up, I discover a page filled with both English writing and lots of the runic symbols which I can't make heads or tails of. I continue along my path, discovering a secret treasure chest here with this little fox thing in it. Be sure to remember these little fox items, because we will be returning to these little guys much, much later. I proceed along the path, coming to a new entrance, which I decide, for better or for worse, to make my way through. I enter into a place called the East Bell Tower, a very interesting name since the page that I picked up has ringing the East Bell as one of the two main objectives. Speaking of pages, I find another one just ahead. Proceeding up the stairs, I find a golden object, much like the one I saw in that ghostly land. This, I surmise, must be what I am looking for, the East Bell. Unfortunately, I don't seem to be able to get up to it at the moment, so I head down the other pathway to find another way up. Here, a ladder lies broken, and after a short fall, I find a new place to rest with no way to turn back. It's only forward from here. I proceed through to the East Forest and find some new enemies, these spiky fellows with the ability to shoot lasers. Ahead lies another sign pointing me to the hero's grave. I also find another resting place, which I'll call, let me just think of something random, bonfires from now on. After resting at the bonfire, my suspicions are confirmed. I am healed, but so are the enemies which I have slain. The price I must pay for a full health bar is their health as well. I also find another page for what I will now refer to as the manual, which I still haven't really taken a close look at yet. For now, I make note that these pages that I am picking up are actually two pages, a front and a back. Ahead is another sign pointing to the hero's grave, but having some unfinished business with Guardhouse 1, I return. Up the ladder and through the door I find another chest, this one with a special item, something I correctly assumed to be a health potion given its potion shape and heart decoration. It is added to my UI along with the letter P. By pressing this button, my little fox drinks the potion, restoring a good deal of his health. Now, you would think this would be a good time to proceed to the hero's grave, but instead, after being blocked at Guardhouse 2, I climb a nearby ladder. After noticing another ladder blocked by shrubs, but also observing these little caped crusaders' sharp swords cutting them down, I lure these enemies to cut down the bushes obstructing my path. At the top, I discover this large lever, which I pull, or I suppose rather, lift. This opens the gate underneath. Barely escaping with my life, I make my way inside, finding myself back in Guardhouse 1. I flip another lever, revealing a shortcut, a stone ladder for easier future access. A nearby chest holds another item, something I am able to surmise is a broken part of another health potion. Proceeding through the door, I have a similar experience to Guardhouse 1. So, down the ladder I go, one hit away from death in a mad dash. I manage to make it back safely to my bonfire. Now, finally, with seemingly no other way to go, I proceed to the hero's grave. With the enemies cleared, I am able to flip a lever, opening up my path forward. Ahead, I find it, what must be the hero's grave. In front of it, I find a sword. Picking it up, I am gifted my second achievement, a sword. I quickly equip my new weapon and wreak some havoc on the local flora, which has made a habit of blocking my path. I also take a moment to study my manual. On page 10, the first one that I have, I see my objective, ringing the East Bell. Below it lies 3 tasks, which read East Forest, Hero's Grave, and Guard Captain. Even without being able to read the other text, I'm willing to bet I just completed step 2 out of 3, and furthermore, I think I might know just where the gentleman from step 3 is located. I return, fight, and evade my way to this upper path where I discover a new item which is suspiciously bomb-shaped. These, it just so happens, are bombs. Full of vigor and resilience, I return to Guardhouse 1 and enter into the arena. I dodge, slice, and immediately die to this giant cowman and his little child. I awake as a ghost, naturally, my first death. I make my way forward, discovering my fox friend in her cage. Because of her size compared to me and her matronly nature, I decide to dub her Mom. Raising her hand, a vast light surrounds me, and I awake, back at the bonfire with a new achievement. What just happened? I decide to explore around a bit, eventually stumbling on the lower forest. This place is filled with spiders. With 1 health and a prayer, I attempt to fight, but I am struck down for my impetuosity. So, into Guardhouse 2 I go, finding some more bombs, some more enemies, and another type of blue bomb in a secret hidden away treasure chest. This path, it turns out, also takes me to the lower forest. Here I find a giant golden monument, which appears to be broken. I search my manual for any signs of this thing, but to no avail. Here I also find some TNT in a chest guarded by the same spiders which killed me earlier. Using the TNT, I take my revenge upon them. Below here I find another chest with a coin in it. It doesn't seem to do anything for the time being. Now, truly out of ways to proceed, I've returned to the guard captain. This time, with the help of a well-placed stick of TNT, he is dispatched easily. Inside, I find a chest with another health potion, increasing my stash to 2. I make my way all the way up, down a hall, unto the eastern bell. I quickly read the plaque which informs me I must strike. I swing my sword and the bell rings out true, granting me my next achievement. Ding. Letting down a nearby rope, I find myself back where I first entered into the East Bell Tower. Before I leave, I cut down some shrubs and discover a hidden path. Here I find a treasure chest with a strange flower item which isn't placed where the rest of my items are. I am unable to enter into the main area of this place, but I am able to get a glimpse of what lies ahead. More ruins, a chest, and a strange, large obelisk. Whatever this might mean, I can only guess for the time being. I check my manual for instructions, noting the beginning of my next quest, ringing the western bell, begins at an old house. I make my way out of the East Bell Tower and back to the main area once again. With my new sword in hand, I make quick work of many of the shrubs which were previously blocking my path, starting with these blocking a new page. I pick up the page and review it. The back page is a map of an area underneath a well, but the front page is even better, a map of the overworld area, a very nice find. I also happen to spot exactly what I am looking for to continue my next quest. Right in the middle of the page lies an old house. Just ahead there is another lever which, once lifted, reveals a new set of stone stairs and an easier path back to the East Forest. I am now back at my original bonfire. At the expense of some more shrubs, I am now able to continue along where I had looked through the telescope. I enter into a windmill structure. Inside, I find a small room with another doorway. Proceeding through that, I find myself in a pitch-black room where I am greeted by a giant skeleton. Luckily, he wants to sell me things. I guess the grind continues on even in the afterlife, poor buddy. He happens to be selling another health potion which I decide to purchase before heading back outside. Just to the left, I find a new telescope. Here I see a new page, lots of enemies, and, most importantly, another bell, exactly like the last. This, I reason, must be the western bell I am in search of. Reviewing my map shows me it stands atop the bell tower, naturally. Getting there, however, will be something else entirely. I proceed down a ladder. Finding a new page here with information about my green bar, which I'll call stamina. I can't read most of it, but the very helpful illustrations help me get the gist of it. On the back is a list of items. There is lots of helpful information on this page, but for the sake of time I will just highlight the main takeaways. First, there is a shield somewhere, something I am in desperate need of. Second, the golden coin I picked up earlier seems to be linked to something. Third, there is magic, magic items, and HP and MP, which I can only assume are health points and magic points. Fourth, the white flower item I picked up earlier does seem to be in a separate category than the rest of the items. And last, the margin of the page tells me I will get something if I throw enough bombs. There are other bits of information here, but these are my main takeaways for now. I make my way to a lower section and enter a small doorway. Inside, I find what looks like an abandoned old shop. In the back, I find treasure chests left unguarded. Opening one, I find another flower, this time a pink one. This is added to my inventory in the same area as the white one, which I picked up earlier. A new shortcut opened. I make a stop at my bonfire to heal. Heading back, I'm introduced to a new enemy type, a gun turret. Caught off guard, I fall prey to its blasts. I try to head back quickly, but I learn that the enemies in this game follow you for a long, long while. Eventually killing them all, I dispatch this big green-caped rat with a giant shield by using a few bombs as my sword was helpless against his defenses. Once dead, he drops an item which I pick up, a key to the old house. I explore around a bit, going to the beach, getting shot at, and discovering a giant golden thing here in the sand. I also find another white flower in a treasure chest and proceed down, off my map, to a place called the Ruined Atoll, where I find a scared bird who doesn't do anything but be scared. Here I also find another chest, this time with a card with what looks like a bracer on it. This card looks an awful lot like those cards I saw on page 17, so for now I just note that this card and the coins must be linked somehow. Further down the beach I find a new page, this one with a map of someplace. But I notice something very interesting, a small area on the bottom which looks exactly like that small area I saw exploring north from the east bell tower. An arrow confirms my suspicions. This place is just to the right of the overworld, above the east forest. On the back is a picture of the Ruined Atoll and something way up in the sky. Returning to the old house on my map, I use my newly acquired key to enter inside. There I find a small bed, a chest with one coin in it, fallen on hard times I guess, and a stairway. I take the stairs and find myself following a pink energy path. Up ahead, I find it, a shield. Picking it up shows me an icon for the semicolon button, showing me how to use it. This time, no equipping is necessary as the shield is directly added to my fox friend's left arm. I flip a lever, opening up a path forward. I also discover that by pressing the block button twice, I do a parry. I proceed to use this almost never in my entire playthrough. Past the gate, I find a weird room. Going out the left side leads me back to the open air and I find myself right next to my bonfire. A path behind the waterfall leads me right back where I started. Not done exploring, I return to the path and forge my way forward, finding a chest with a fang in it. I quickly review my manual, noting that my next task after the old house is to explore the flooded well. Luckily there's a well on this map, and I also have page 29, a map of the well itself. Remembering my lesson about waterfalls, I check behind this one, discovering a funny room with nothing in it. I wonder if this room will serve any significance 6 chapters from now. That would really be something. I also make my way through another entrance into this uninviting place with skulls everywhere. However, I can't see anything. And after the name is revealed as the Dark Tomb, I start to suspect that nothing here is going to illuminate my path for me. I head out. I fight some more enemies, and I break a sign? I literally didn't notice this while playing. I didn't even know that was possible. Very interesting. Up some ladders is another chest with another pink flower. I lower a bridge, another shortcut, and stand above what I know to be the well from my map. I pick up a new page, this one finally granting some insight into what these strange items are. They are, assumedly, a way to upgrade my power, specifically my attack, defense, health, potion, I assume how much it heals me, and a couple others which aren't revealed. However, while it may seem obvious in retrospect, I still don't actually know how to perform an upgrade. On the back is some stuff about death, regeneration, and something called the Guardian Knight. I lower another bridge, leading me right back to the windmill and my bonfire. I quickly rest and head down the well to see what awaits me. Luckily, I have a map to help guide my way. Proceeding along, I find myself looking closely at my map, and I notice a secret pathway right where I'm at. Sure enough, after approaching the wall, it budges, revealing a hidden pathway. Inside, I find another shard of a health container. As this is my third one, they combine, granting me my fourth health potion. I also find another coin. Continuing along, following this metal path in the ground, I find myself outside in a tunnel. I proceed directly underneath the western bell. Here I find another obelisk and, importantly, a lantern which, like my shield, is always equipped, creating a small circle of light around me permanently. With my lantern's light, I now notice a small side path. Checking my map, there is a skull. I head down and interrupt a business meeting. Ahead, I find another page, the second set I have picked up in the well. The first was a map of what I assume to be the ruined atoll. The back of that is a map of a place called the Frog's Domain, which just so happens to be a place named on the previous page. The second set of pages are no less interesting. The backside shows a picture of a giant robot spider thing, which I am sure is super friendly and means me no harm at all. The front shows two maps, one of the Dark Tomb, which I should now be able to explore with the help of the lantern, and another of somewhere I can only describe as beneath the earth, as the page does. After resting at the newly discovered bonfire and continuing, I find myself serendipitously at the entrance to the Dark Tomb. It seems as though we have made it to step 3 of our page 10 guide for ringing the West Bell. It is here, however, that I have an idea. I notice this indicator to press tab near one of my bonfire statues, and it finally clicks that upgrading in these statues may be intertwined. Sure enough, returning to the bonfire and opening up my inventory next to it reveals something, a cost to offer my resources to the statue in return for an upgrade. I choose one to offer up, Strength. Placing it on the fire, it is consumed and I am granted an achievement, Your gift is accepted, for making my first offering. I make a couple more offerings before continuing on. Into the Dark Tomb I go. Here, I find another card similar to the one I found near the atoll. However, this time I look at it in my inventory and notice a suspiciously squarish option. Clicking on it reveals my 2 cards, and, by selecting one, I equip it. I don't know exactly what each one does, but, spoiler alert, I never really figure that out. As the game progresses, I can make a more and more educated guess at what each card accomplishes, but I am never sure exactly. So, as I will do for my entire playthrough, I equip the card and hope it helps. I continue farther down into the tomb. And proceed through the dark ruins, careful to avoid the lovely, bold choice of flooring, deadly spikes. I encounter some interesting statues with lasers, and I can recognize a booby trap when I see one. Unfortunately, this guy does not. Breaking the traps, I proceed. Here I am also reminded why it is a good idea to pay close attention to the manual, and I find a treasure chest with another coin in it. In the next room I find lots of laser statues, which I systematically destroy in order to stay safe. In the chest I find another effigy, as my manual calls them. I also find a lever. Lifting this opens a path from which light spills into the dark tomb. I proceed through this new opening. Here I find the same room I had found at the bottom of the well. However, now I am on the bottom floor. Circumnavigating this giant pink pillar of light, I find a new path to follow. Exiting through the doorway, I find myself back in the overworld, again just under the western bell and bell tower. A sign points me left to the west garden, as my map also shows. So, after a quick peek at the western bell, I head off in that direction. Now in the west garden, I stroll forward, finding another golden object in the water. Very interestingly, I also find another hero's grave here, identical to the one I found in the East Forest. A telescope gives me a good look at the area I have come to traverse. Just ahead I find a new bonfire, allowing me to set my respawn at this new location. Forging ahead, I find a new enemy type, this chompy fellow, as well as some new pages. The first contains a bunch of little tips and tricks. The most interesting thing it reveals is that I seem to be missing a blue bar. The other side contains a new map of the West Garden connected to the map of the overworld. Most interesting here is this, as well as this friendly fellow who, quite explicitly, will kill me. I take a second to stop by a secret area. I had noticed these little eyes on the map, and with my new page giving me a hint also, I noticed some suspicious looking eyes near my current bonfire. Entering in, I find my giant skeleton shopkeeper again, but I am too poor to afford anything, so I head along my way. I proceed through the West Garden. I let down a new drawbridge and, just like that, a new pathway back to my bonfire is unlocked. Also new are these robots called Fairies. They certainly make combat much more interesting. I rested a nearby bonfire and managed to fight my way over to the right side of the West Garden, where, I know from my map, something called the Magic Dagger is located. Entering into a cave, I discover it lying on a stone bench. I equip it, and, after I use it, a new blue bar appears next to my stamina. I discover quickly how the system works. I have a limited number of uses, in this case 3, before I run out of MP. Resting at a bonfire restores my MP and allows me 3 more uses. I try out the dagger on an unsuspecting cow soldier, freezing him in place for a time. Up a ladder, I discover another rope. Letting this down unlocks a new shortcut from the beginning of the garden up to the end. Back up the walkway, I approach an area which, on my map, is marked with a skull. I approach softly, but apparently not softly enough. I guess it's time to fight. I use my freezing dagger and he, not wanting me to feel left out, starts blasting me also. down to 1/8 of his health, but then, tragedy. A slip-up and no first try for me. Oh well, I go again. This time, to make him pay, I do the fight without getting hit. My foe vanquished, I make my way along the upper path and back to the overworld. I climb a series of ladders, reaching the top of the west bell tower. I strike, obtaining my next achievement, Dong. Just ahead, I let down one more bridge, connecting the bell tower with the rest of the overworld. I make my way back to familiar ground. Now, finally, with both bells rung, I can return to the giant golden door. I approach timidly, and it opens slowly, allowing me passage. I enter inside the sealed temple. Here I find a path and a statue with an inscription. Unfortunately, I remain illiterate. Just beyond, I find a new, strange sight. A group of spinning shapes levitating in the air. I circle around, discovering 3 empty spaces for 3 ancient relics. Proceeding down a pathway, I discover a new page. The front reveals to me what I am supposed to be doing with the strange obelisks I have been seeing. Hold space next to them. The back reveals what I assume the 3 artifacts must be. A red, green, and blue gem. Much like I saw when I first met Mom. Exiting the temple, I find myself on the top of the map. I fight some enemies and discover that I am not quite as high up as I may think. Climbing some stairs, I enter a snowy, ruinous landscape. At the very top, I discover a new page. The front is all about cards, including a hint on what exactly I am supposed to be doing with those weird coins I have been finding. The back is a page of hints and clues, all of which remain almost indecipherable for the time being. Back on the mountaintop, I stand before the grand door, which will become very important later on, though I don't know it at the time. Returning to the main overworld, I fight my way past some enemies and ultimately to another lever, revealing yet another time-saving stone ladder and a new way forward. Proceeding in that direction, I come across a sign pointing me to the forest fortress. I head in that direction to discover whatever may await me. Entering into the forest fortress, a familiar ruinous landscape greets my eyes. Approaching a new bonfire, I am greeted with a disturbing message: dead. The fire appears to have gone out. Luckily, consulting my manual, I remember the instructions I was given. I approach the large obelisk and hold down space, kneeling to the ground. I pray, surrounding myself with light and powering up the obelisk and gifting me my next achievement. You hear a strange hum. Now I realize that the pink essence I have been seeing is some type of energy, and the metal lines on the floor are essentially cables for that energy. With this obelisk activated, a cable running to the bonfire glows pink. Sure enough, after I approach it once more, it works without issue. Following the energy path, I find a new obelisk. Activating this one clears my path. Beyond, I find a new page. The front is complete confirmation of what my next goal should be. Collect the 3 gems and return them to the secret temple. Very importantly, it also tells me where each one is located. The red, coveted in a forest temple. The green, stolen to the top of the sky. The blue, sealed at the root of the world. My quest lies before me as clear as ever. The back of the page shows my fox friend fighting something, but I am missing the rest of the picture and cannot tell what or who I may be fighting. Interestingly, the fox is also wearing something peculiar on his head, something reminiscent of a laurel crown, but instead of leaves, a pink energy infuses the object, or rather, is the object. One more thing to keep in the back of my mind. Down a nearby ladder I go, entering into a place beneath the eastern vault. Checking my manual reveals what I had suspected. Opening up page 30, I see a little indicator of my location on the second, smaller map in the top corner. I am indeed beneath the earth. And, as is both a blessing and a curse, I know exactly what awaits me in this cold, damp place. I bravely forge ahead. In a chest, I find a new upgrade material, a blue mushroom. Inspecting my manual, I discover that this is the one material which was not revealed to me. Now I can complete this list. The leaf must upgrade my stamina, and this mushroom, I assume from its bluish hue, upgrades my magic. I assume correctly. Finding myself in a big room with lots of these candle fellows, I toss a stick of TNT. To my surprise, I am granted an achievement. Your pocket feels heavier for understanding the margin of page 17. I'm going to be completely honest, I did not understand the margin of page 17. I thought that the achievement was the prize itself, but it turns out that by using a lot of bombs, you are granted an extra of that type when you rest at a bonfire. I definitely noticed the little plus number icons next to my bombs as I played, but I never put together what it all meant. I guess that's what I get for being stingy with my bombs. You just never know when you're going to need an absurd amount of consumables. Any minute now, just you watch. These 10 bombs and a dozen buff-giving items are going to come in handy. Any minute. Returning to the fight, and skipping over the part where I take an hour to figure out you have to roll twice to extinguish yourself when on fire, and the part where I run away through half the caves, and the part where I hit myself with TNT, and the part where I straight up just hit a bomb-shaped pot with my sword, I find myself victorious. Powering up the obelisk extends a pink path of energy running through the floor. Following the pink path, I find myself in the eastern vault. Consulting my map, I am able to piece together my goal. I am following the energy paths in order to light up these obelisks next to this big golden door. By my estimation, it looks as though I've almost got one lit already, but the other one is going to take a bit more work. In the next room, I find another bonfire, just in time since, after all that, I have no health left. It seems as though I need to activate an obelisk to rest here. I guess I'm doing this with no health then. Luckily, trying out a few things in my inventory, I discover these berries which restore my health a little, giving me a bit more leeway. With the obelisk activated, I am finally able to rest, restoring my health and healing me completely. On the upper floor, I also discover a new page. On the front is this friendly-looking fellow called, assumedly, the Librarian. My only real hint about this fellow is from the art. My fox friend holds his shield above his head, protecting his fur from what appears to be from the dark lines all around and the splashes illuminated by the light, a downpour. The jagged edges of darkness in the shape of lightning seem to confirm these suspicions. From the page, I also learn of two more things. First is something called the Holy Cross, a term I actually have seen before elsewhere in the manual, although I am still at a loss for what exactly it is other than a magic item. I guess it is some sort of special object I'll discover later on. Second is the cathedral. Could this be where the librarian is located? Or perhaps it is the location of the Holy Cross? Only time will tell. The back of the page is no less informative, showing me a rat-like creature in a gas mask called the Boss of the Scavengers. Most importantly, in the text lies an icon of the blue gem. Is it possible, I wonder, that I have just been given all the information I need with hardly a legible word to be found? The green gem stolen to the top of the sky. Where else would you find rain? And where you find a gem, you are likely to find someone willing to guard it. The blue gem sealed at the root of the world, surrounded by darkness and secured by those who take what they can get. All that would leave then is the red gem, coveted in a forest temple, guarded by those who wish to keep it from those who don't deserve it, protected by something enormous, perhaps, something from a war long past, coaxed into this lonely purpose, knowing the fight must continue. Pondering these things, I resume my quest. Continuing through the eastern vault, I discover what I had suspected, a big golden door flanked on each side by obelisks with energy paths running to them. The left one, now that I have powered that last obelisk, is already lit. All that remains is the right. Nearby lies another hidden alcove for my skeleton friend to peddle his goods. Having acquired a good deal of money by this point, I decide to purchase another health potion for 1,000 coins, bringing my total to 5. Exiting outside, I find one obelisk I need to activate surrounded by enemies. I also get another achievement, Lawnmower, for slicing down 1,000 blades of grass. Despite the fact that I didn't even hit the grass myself, this candle fellow hit the bomb, which blew up the grass, giving me the achievement. A win is a win, I guess. Unfortunately, it seems that this obelisk is, itself, still unpowered. Making my way right, I dodge these enemies and get another achievement. It uses stamina for executing a special attack. I get this by rolling and immediately attacking afterwards, performing a special lunge and missing the enemy entirely. Man, I'm on a roll here. Checking my map, I have 2 objectives in mind. 1, to go right to see what might be over here at this candle. And 2, to go through the eastern vault up to this top level, activate this obelisk, and then lastly these 2 obelisks to enter inside. Making my way to the far right side of the map, I am greeted by a familiar face. Once again, I find another hero's grave. They, like the map hinted at, are holding a candle. Before leaving, however, I have an idea. In the ground before the statue is a small square. Standing on this square, I kneel down to pray. I am teleported back to the ghostly world which I will call, as the game does, the Far Shore. Here I find myself on a stone edifice with a stairway branching off from it. Taking these stairs, I notice 5 other similar structures and stairways, each leading, or rather pointing, to a corresponding upgrade material. In the very middle stands a statue of a fox which looks just like me, with that same laurel crown on its head that I saw in my manual. I try a few different things, but nothing seems to happen. Not sure how to proceed, or even whether or not proceeding is possible at this time, I head back through the teleporter to the physical realm. I continue with my second task, activating the obelisk on the upper floor of the eastern vault and all the obelisks connected to it. Ignoring the attacks of my foes, I make my way in, through the golden doors, and into the interior of the Eastern Vault. Following the pink path, I find another one of those golden squares that I've seen in a couple of different places, including at the beginning of the game. Tipped off by recent experience and a helpful hint in my manual, I stand on the square and pray. Sure enough, I am teleported once again to the far shore. Here I find a hub world with many other squares connected together. Taking one, I find myself teleported back to the golden square in the overworld near the old house. Another one leads me to the ruined atoll where, previously, I had found that scared bird. This time, however, I am up on top of the stone structures. I also, funnily enough, explore a little bit and discover a hidden ladder, revealing that this place was accessible from the very beginning, if only I had known where to look. I will have to return here soon. Another portal hidden behind some stairs leads me to a curious room described only with runic symbols and question marks. There doesn't appear to be anything to do here, so I head back to the far shore. Other portals also lie dormant and deactivated here, but there is one more in the center I have not traversed. Taking that one leads me to what I can only describe as an arena with a large blue sword floating in the air. Unable to interact with anything for the time being, I decide to head back. Up the stairs I discover a familiar sight, the same doors I saw the first time I entered the far shore. Doors in the same style as the golden doors which guard the sealed temple and eastern vault I just entered. Proceeding through them, I once again find a familiar face, Mom. She is surrounded by ghostly versions of all of the upgrade materials which I have offered up to her at the bonfires throughout my journey, and seems quite happy to see me, giving me an encouraging nod and wave. Finished exploring, I decide it is time to head back to the interior of the Eastern Vault. Making my way a little farther on through the ruins, I advance up one last set of stairs and awake the great siege engine, guardian of the red gem, key of the Eastern Vault. This giant robot, it turns out, proves itself to be one tough customer. He has a weak spot, but every time I approach it, he jumps away almost instantly. Pair this with the flying minions he spawns in, a very large arena, and some laser attacks which are very difficult to dodge, and I am finding myself in a good deal of trouble. However, I don't discourage too easily. One more time ought to do it. My great foe vanquished, I retrieve the spoils of war, a small object with a red gemstone attached to the end. Just down the stairs I find a place to insert this object, unlocking the eastern vault. From inside, I obtain the red gem, and I am gifted an achievement for doing so, deep in the forest. The first gem obtained, I set out to collect the other two. Before continuing, I make two noteworthy discoveries. The first is here in the top left of my overworld map, where I discover an area I had missed before. Approaching, I find another strange golden monument with an interesting pattern carved into it. I find myself wondering whether or not this golden object and the broken golden object I saw in the East Forest could be connected somehow. In front lies something incredible, a magic wand. Equipping this, I am able to shoot off bolts of fire. I have found another magic item for my collection. The second discovery is one I probably should have made a while ago. Approaching a well, I equip a coin into one of my action slots. Pressing the button, my little fox friend throws the coin into the well, granting me an achievement. Nothing happened, for making my wish. Having more coins and nothing else to do with them, I throw a couple more into the well, receiving in return this funny square. I open my inventory and, as I suspected, a new slot for my cards has appeared, allowing me to equip up to 2. Reviewing my manual, I am now able to decipher its meaning. By throwing in 3 coins total, I have unlocked a second slot. By throwing in 3 more coins for a total of 6, I will unlock a third slot, 4 more for my fourth slot, and 5 more for my fifth. 15 coins in total, 5 slots for different cards. I throw in my last coin and leave in search of more. Now, finally, I make my way to the ruined atoll, one of the only unexplored areas left to me in search of my next gem, and whether it be by intuition or, what is perhaps better, attention to detail, I already have a pretty good idea in what direction this path may lead. Welcome to the ruined atoll, a beachy land filled with ruins and, what else, sand. I suppose we must be nearing the equator. From my map of this location, I am able to put together, even from the beginning, a rough path of progression. In each corner lies an obelisk, each leading to something in the middle. My new goal, reach all 4 corners of this squarish land. Off I set. Immediately after approaching the beach and showing the local wildlife that I am off limits when it comes to pinching, I discover a hidden pathway. This path takes me to the northwestern corner of the map. I also catch a glimpse of this frog-like fellow guarding the obelisk, a sneak peek, if you will. Continuing forwards, I discover another frog, this time on my level. Unable to reach the top of the northwestern tower for now, I instead head up to the southwestern tower where I find another of those scared birds. Kneeling down, I activate the obelisk, the first of 4. With this tower activated, a nearby energy pipe is empowered. This pipe is broken, its contents spilling out into the water. a blackish pink substance that looks like some kind of dark energy. I suppose these really were pipes after all, transporting this energy-laden liquid between them. Approaching the end of the pipe, I begin to lose not just health, but the amount of health my health bar contains, limiting my max health until I rest at a bonfire. That is not a good sign. A nearby telescope gives me my first look at the center of the island, where lies a great stone statue with, now, 1 pathway out of 4 lit up. Heading up this ladder, I find a chest with a new card in it. On the way back, I notice a crustaceous fellow waiting patiently in the background. Blocked in other directions, I head to the center of the insular atoll and head towards the northeastern corner where my map informs me the frog's domain is located. Heading around the back of this section of the island, I locate a key. Unimpeded, I climb to the top of the island, kneel down, and activate a second obelisk. Back on the floor, I head up this small structure in pursuit of a chest. To my surprise, I am able to go right, and my camera flips around, similar to when I found the key. Taking the ladder, I enter into the mouth, literally, of the cave. Down below is a frog fighter. Killing him reveals that he has a metal hook attached to his tongue, although it is a bit hard to see here. The cave, it turns out, is similarly outfitted. Interesting. I enter into the frog's domain to continue my quest. Reviewing my manual, I notice there are 3 types of frogs, a young one, a teenager one, and an adult, each with unique properties. Also, there are baby slorms. In the bottom right lies a diagram of something called the magic orb. Journeying on, I notice there are 2 ways into the frog's domain. I enter the first, where I quickly run into a dead end and get shot at by a turret. I continue the other way, down a spiral staircase, a ladder, and ultimately into the slimy realm. Through a familiar-looking set of open golden doors, I find a small room containing the southern vault, exactly like the one I received the red gem from. Approaching, I am given a horrible message. Already stolen. Stolen, I find myself wondering, by whom? With all of the frog worshippers slain, I approach the magic orb. Upon inspection, it appears to actually be an octopus holding an orb. Equipping my new magic item, I target a nearby hook, latching onto it and pulling myself onto it. Now, all those hooks I have been seeing everywhere make a lot more sense. I am now able to proceed up the second path towards the mouth of the cave. Here, I also learn something very important. These turrets that I have been killing leave behind a little fork. This too becomes a latch for my new octopus orb. I also learn you can zap enemies to you, so that is also fun. Exiting the frog's domain, I immediately find a hook allowing me to zip over to where the northeastern obelisk was located. Continuing on the ground, I find a locked door which I use my key to open. Letting down a rope and then a bridge leads me to this little island with a big friend on it. Unfortunately, he seems quite impervious to my attacks, so I run away, retreat tactfully. Luckily, getting away scot-free, another one. Taking refuge in this tower and ridding myself of these pesky birds, I climb my way to the top where I am able to activate my third obelisk. Only one obelisk remaining. I make my way back to the northwest corner of the map, easily zipping up now that I have my new octopus friend. Quickly dispatching those on guard, I approach the final obelisk and power it up. One other quick note before I head to the center. On the side of the mountain I find another one of those green shield rats which I have seen before around different places. Previously I was unable to breach their defenses. However, after pulling him over a couple of times, he drops his shield, allowing me to finally vanquish him and proceed. Behind, I find another card. You'll see why this is important shortly. Heading to the center of the island, I approach the statue imbued with power. Following the examples of the other statues, I bow to pray. The statue lifts up and a zap of energy fills the center. I repeat this process, entering in and getting zapped away to who knows where exactly. I awake somewhere on an island high up in the sky. Going around the island and up a ladder, I enter inside. There I find books, large books the size of my whole body. Going forward a bit more and the name is revealed, the Great Library. I take a quick, nervous glance at my manual, at the personage I know must lie somewhere within this domain. An individual that, perhaps in his thirst for knowledge, stole a certain gem I have come in search of from its vault. Up some stairs I find another hero's grave, my fourth so far. This one corresponds with the mushroom item. Back in the library, I head up some more stairs, around an ornately decorated room, up a ladder, and finally I hook onto a small tuning fork. Here I find a workshop. Breaking some glass, I am able to retrieve the page inside. On the front I find a map of the cathedral, a place listed on the page for the librarian also. The only very interesting thing here is this icon, which legend says wearing allows you to do something extraordinary. This leafy object looks familiar. On the back is a map of my warp zone in the far shore. As always, there is lots to notice here, but the highlight is this, the revelation of a new area called the Quarry, which I have yet to see in my travels. Breaking another glass gives me yet another page. On the front of this one lies a dejected picture of a fox, maybe myself, in front of the door in the mountains. The same door I saw up in, where else, the mountains. Quite relatable. On the back is, assumedly, a list of all of the different cards in the game. No direct instructions are given for what each one does, but a few scribbles here and there help me to make a more educated guess for some of them. Yet another glass and page later, and I find myself looking at, coincidentally, the same quarry I just learned existed only a moment ago. As always, the page is rife with information, such as a candle here indicating that this must be where the hero's grave is, an item called the gun, which I mean yeehaw, and also an area called the Lower Miasma, with a suspiciously familiar gas-masked enemy icon listed next to it. On the back lies yet another map of the swamp or old burying ground. To keep it brief, two notable things stand out. One, yet another hero's grave seems to be located here, and two, just above that grave lies a structure, eerily cathedral-shaped. As to wherever this burial ground might be, I have no clue. My head swimming with information, I continue on. Powering up a nearby obelisk unlocks the fast travel gate to this library, explaining why I couldn't travel here before from the far shore. I rest at a nearby bonfire to replenish my health and magic completely. Ascending a long ladder, I find myself outside, climbing ever upwards. At the top, I find him pondering. The librarian. I'm not going to lie, this fight was tough, by far the toughest in the game for me. I think three main things contributed to this. First, the arena is very small, and many of his moves have to be dodged, not blocked. Quite a shift from most other fights thus far. The librarian is, overall, a much more suffocating fight. Second, minions. My one downfall in this game was the target lock. During my whole playthrough, I never figured out that you could switch targets once locked on. You can, by pressing the arrow keys on the keyboard, but this is never, as far as I know, even hinted at anywhere. So anytime I needed to target something else other than what I was currently targeting, I just untargeted and retargeted and hoped that what I wanted to target was picked. This led to hilarious situations like when I got stuck up on this cliff because I couldn't target the nearby hook due to the proximity of these frog enemies. I just watched them spin around for 2 minutes until I got lucky. So, all of that to say that when the minions spawn in, all of my strategy immediately fell out the window because I couldn't target the guy that was shooting deadly lasers at me. I could hardly see him. Eventually, I just resorted to dropping everything I was doing as soon as the minions spawned in, killing them as fast as possible to get them off the screen ASAP. Third, magic and items. Something I discovered as I was playing this game, especially right around this point, is that the game wants you to use magic and items. Bombs, buffs, lasers, hooks. Spamming these things is not an outright necessity, but it is certainly encouraged. So much so that I imagine that this fight would be outright unfair without either the lovely fire rod or magic orb. I know it is encouraged because the minions drop little orbs of blue, which refills your magic points, allowing you more uses for your magic items. However, and this is a personal fault, using these items makes me feel bad, okay? Why can't I kill this guy with my sword and shield? Get out of the air! He keeps flying over there! Fight me on the ground like a man, you stupid wizard rat deer thing! So, with that in mind, here's a quick death montage of me slowly dealing with these issues and learning how to, get good. Alright, enough of that. This fellow seems to like learning, so it's time to stop messing around and teach him a lesson he won't soon forget, once and for all. From the librarian, I retrieve the green gem, and I am granted an achievement, high above the clouds. I solemnly make my way down the great library once more. Inside, I take the teleporters back to the overworld. Like the last chapter, I accomplish something important before moving on. Finally remembering that golden square I saw way back when I first started the game, I return to it, taking the teleporter back to the far shore. This teleporter is cut off from the rest, the pathway broken. Nearby lies a page. On the front is, funnily enough, a table of contents. Nothing stands out here as particularly revelational, but it is certainly a nice thing to have. On the back is lore. Something apparently happened a long time ago, as things are wont to do. Best I can make out is that these foxes were searching for the power to defy death, and this has something to do with the obelisks. Also related to this is our good friend the Holy Cross, still looking for that wherever it may be hidden. Finished exploring, I head to the only place I know of that I haven't yet explored, a little side path leading to something called the Forbidden Pass. Previously, one of those green shield enemies blocked my path and I was unable to get around them no matter what I tried. Now, however, I know of a way to progress. Pulling him twice, he drops his shield and falls to my blade. Proceeding up a ladder, I make my way through into the unknown beyond. So this is what the path to the root of the world looks like. After all, that must be where I am headed, towards the location of the blue gem, the only one that remains to be found. As I continue on, a new view is presented to me, that of a cavernous expanse in a giant structure, the rooted ziggurat. Powering up a nearby obelisk extends the energy pathway below me all the way to the edifice, and its door shines with the pinkish light as it dissipates into nothing. Through that opening must be my prize. The name of this place is revealed to me, the Quarry. I quickly check my manual for the map I recently acquired for this place. I give it a quick once-over to refresh my memory. Nearby are two things, the teleporter back to the far shore, and a bonfire, a new respawn point for this new area. Beginning my mission into the quarry, I immediately encounter some rats with equipment well suited for chemical warfare. I quickly drop one to his doom and proceed to slice up the others. However, in doing so, I stray too close to the broken obelisk which lies in the center. Like the broken pipes in the ruined atoll, my health and health bar are depleted as I stand close by it. I return to my bonfire to heal up again. There are three kinds of rats then: swords rats, sniper rats, and bomb-throwing rats. Taking a tunnel down to the lower floor, I am quickly cut off by the extreme levels of radiation here. There is no way to proceed without hemorrhaging more health than I have to spare. Heading back, I decide to take the long way around. After dispatching some enemies, I make my way over to this rocky alcove where I find a treasure chest. Also, here is a telescope giving me a new view of the open door I hope to reach. Further on, I find a familiar object, a lever which, like its counterparts, unlocks a stone ladder shortcut back to the start of the quarry. Making my way to the very top, I find a rat mining a big geode of blackish pink crystal. Avoiding eye contact, I shimmy by, loot his treasure, and kill his friends while he mines, blissfully unaware. Here I find a bonfire. However, a moat surrounds it, and, not wanting to get my fur wet, I find this barrier impenetrable. The bonfire is just out of reach. Making my way up a nearby ladder, I find another treasure chest with a coin in it, but more interesting is the other treasure chest here, on the small precipice just out of reach. How, I find myself wondering, am I ever supposed to reach that place? There just doesn't seem to be any feasible way. I decide to leave the problem for now and come back some other time. I head inside the structure my map calls the monastery. Inside, I find lots of rats mining away and lots of exposed energy ready to drain my health away. With no more than a single hit of health left, I open the gate. In front of this gate stands an obelisk, broken open, likely by the miners, a portent of things to come. Inside the inner part of the monastery, I find boxes and boxes of skulls, leading me to question what or who exactly this monastery is for. Up ahead, I find another hero's grave, my 5th so far. If the number of upgrade resources are any indication, I only have one more to find, and, as I've already determined previously, this last hero's grave must be here, in the swamp, just before what I suspect is the cathedral. However, what exactly finding all of them accomplishes is still unclear. As of yet, I am unable to do anything when visiting them. In a nearby treasure chest, I find a new card, this one with a gas mask icon imprinted upon it. Equipping this card, my fox friend dons a gas mask. Finally, I have some protection against this dark energy. I make my way out of the top of the monastery. Going down a path near some lovely waterfalls, up a winding spiral staircase, and finally up another long set of stairs, I emerge in a wintry land. Just ahead, I am in for a shock. The camera flips and the door in the mountains is revealed. I have just arrived at the door anew, this time from the opposite side. Everything, I am finally beginning to learn, is connected. Back in the quarry I continue on, now immune to the radiation thanks to my new mask. Just beyond this target range, I find something special. A gun. I quickly equip my new magic item and, with just one round in the chamber, I take aim and fire. Don't worry, this bad boy will see plenty of combat sooner rather than later. Just ahead, I let down a new bridge and progress onward. Following the path of the tracks laid out for minecarts, drills, and other pieces of equipment, I come across the door of the rooted ziggurat. Everything glows with a pinkish energy, giving an ominous brightness to the whole thing. I make my way inside. What this place is called? Unknown. Ahead, I find enemies, but they are either sleeping or worse. Through a gate, I find a stone platform glowing with light. Standing on it takes me exactly where I desired to go. To the root of the world. I am now inside the ziggurat. A little farther on, I discover a bonfire. This one, however, has quite a different look. Luckily, it functions just the same. In this new area, I quickly find some familiar faces as swarms of fairies attack me. Soon after, I meet with a couple of turrets for good measure. Nothing better to make you feel right at home. Also, hitting this funny-looking node unlocks a secret pathway, allowing me access to this treasure chest. Climbing up a ladder, I approach a strange shape which, coming alive, begins to attack. One quick rotating puzzle later, and I make my way inside this mechanical structure. I go down a ladder, and then another, and I behold a terrible sight. An emaciated beast of dark energy kept suspended in the air. I am unable to interact with it in any way, however, he is certainly aware of my presence. Down another ladder, I ride another elevator. Whatever they are, the obelisks contain them, for better or for worse. Through a door, I find another bonfire, along with pools of bright pink energy. Continuing along the path, I am attacked by what I will call energy spiders. Kill one of the larger ones and it splits into two smaller ones. Kill a smaller one and it stays dead. Repeat until all of them are dead. Of course, when they hit me, they steal my health and flashbang me. I would expect no less. Further on, I find a new bonfire, as well as a couple of blocks patiently waiting for me. Activating the obelisk opens my path forward. I head down a long ladder, onto a long bridge overlooking, at first, a pink waterfall of energy. But soon I am overlooking something else entirely. My foe, not slain, but rather subdued, I take the spoils of war. the blue gem granting me my next achievement at the root of the world. Heading back, I activate another bonfire, which I probably should have done before the boss fight. Stepping inside the newly opened doors leads me to a familiar sight, the strange room connected to the far shore. Fortunately, I am able to take the teleporter back to familiar ground once again. For the first time in a long while, I return to the central bonfire in the overworld. Now, at long last, my quest is complete. I am ready to return to the sealed temple and deposit the 3 gems. I make my way inside the temple, past the statues, and unto the rotating shapes. I offer the blue key, unlocking the inner ring. I offer the red key, unlocking the outer ring. And finally, I offer the green key, unlocking the final ring. The quest fulfilled, the camera pans out, and I am given my next achievement. What now? A great question, actually. What am I supposed to do next? For the moment, I am completely and utterly uncertain. So, I wasn't exactly joking about not knowing what to do next. At this point, there isn't really anywhere that I know of that I haven't been, except 2 places. The first is the swamp and cathedral, which should be connected, and the other is whatever is behind the giant door in the mountain. After scouring my manual for anything of note, I discover a singular clue. The path to the swamp appears to be going down from the top leftish area of its map. This, I determine, might be a hint for how to access this place. I also notice another concerning fact. At this point in my journey, I am fairly confident that I have explored what must be the majority of the game. Sometimes you just get a feeling that a game must be nearly out of new areas to introduce, and I was getting that feeling right about now. However, almost unbelievably, I had only achieved 15 of the game's 36 achievements at this point, not even half. Either I wasn't even halfway done by this point, something which seems inconceivable to me, or there was another layer to this game I had yet to crack. I would soon find out just how right that hypothesis would turn out to be. But back in the present, I search in vain for anything I might have missed. First, I head back to the mountain door to try to open it. Try as I might, I make no progress. I explore the overworld, taking note again of a couple of pages I still cannot get to. I also take note of these metal doors I can't access under my house with a pattern on them. Another similar set of doors lies behind this fountain. I find a coin on the beach by using my octopus power. And I also realize that there is an obelisk under the well which I had never activated, since I went through the well before I knew how to activate the obelisks or even knew what they did. I traverse the well once more, activate the obelisk, and follow the pink line in the floor to find another coin. Good to have, but not exactly the breakthrough I was hoping for. I re-explore the west garden for anything I might have missed, taking note of another obelisk, this one inaccessible. I put together from my manual that activating this obelisk will likely fix the broken warp to the west garden from the far shore, but I can't seem to accomplish this at the moment. I discover another card I missed too, and I discover another door. It also will not reveal its secrets to me. I toss a couple of coins into a nearby well, unlocking a third slot in my inventory for the cards. I discover an arrow on my map leading to yet another place I cannot access, where this fuzzy ball of some sort awaits me. Add it to the list, I guess. I explore backwards through the dark tomb. I return to the doors under the house and try anything I can think of to persuade them to open. Unsuccessful, I turn to head back toward the path to my house. However, by sheer chance, I decide to just keep going forward, and I find myself in a new area, a little circular room with 12 smaller circles arranged on the floor in a circular pattern. I can't seem to do anything here, but at least this feels like progress. Back in my house, I noticed the strange tapestry on the wall, taking special note of its interesting pattern. I would later learn how right I was to take note of something as innocuous as a strangely decorated tapestry on a wall. However, at this point, I still lacked the key tool to help me truly understand. To hurry through much of the rest, I find yet another coin on the beach, I travel through the ruined atoll and library again, I revisit the hero's grave, I did even more stuff not worth going over, and finally, I discover yet another patterned door at the bottom right of the overworld. Just below this door, however, I find an inactivated obelisk, and I start to realize that I don't remember having ever really explored this part of the overworld very thoroughly. A chance attempt at target lock modifies my camera, and I notice a wooden bridge below. Excitedly, I rush over the bridge, past yet another page, and into a stone hallway. Emerging into this new area, I notice that I seem to be coming from the top left and heading downwards. I quickly check my map, and to my relief, my little icon shows up. I have found the swamp. Before I leave, I read the map's warning. This zone is extremely dangerous and is best left alone. Even if you're feeling brave, only ghosts are permitted to enter the inner grounds. Well, it's a good thing I'm feeling extra brave at the present moment. Continuing on, I pass yet another broken golden monument in the water. I also notice that because there is a treasure chest up there, I will be able to get back to that pillar on the pathway above to activate it. Somehow, someday. Heading downwards into the old burying ground, I have a quick look around, and then I head up a tower and peer through a telescope at the cathedral. There can be no doubt any more. I behold the ancient structure for the very first time. Back on the ground, the land remains eerily devoid of life. It is a graveyard, after all. But suddenly, I am ambushed by some sort of specter. I quickly put it to rest. Inside a nearby building my map indicates is the giant skeleton shopkeeper. However, the mausoleum is boarded up, and despite my efforts, I can't seem to break through. I explore the rest of the grounds, finding an inactive bonfire, fighting some skeletons, and discovering a new card. Afterwards, I head back to the main doorway, also boarded up with planks, and it is here I make a horrible discovery. Once again, I do not know how I am to progress. I can't get through this door. Unable to do anything else, I resign myself to my fate and head back to the main area, stuck once again. Okay, only highlights from here. Back in the East Forest, I take a teleporter to the far shore and end up who knows where, on a tiny little broken off island. Why does this exist, and where am I? I have no clue. Also, I notice there is an arrow on this map to something. In the forest fortress, I notice a little area up by the hero's grave which I also can't reach with a similar arrow. In my manual, on the hints page, one hint is lit up. That's suspicious. In a small side path in the overworld I haven't taken since the very beginning of the game, I discover another pattern on the wall. This one isn't a door, but farther up on the wall. It does nothing. I also have what I thought at the time was such a good idea. Remembering that only ghosts are allowed into the inner grounds of the old burying grounds, I return to the swamp and purposefully die, hoping that somehow my ghost self would be able to help me or something. Unfortunately, this ends up being another dead end. Finally, after wandering around for hours, I decide to go check on Mom. I head up to where she is, make my way down the path, and discover nothing. But this time, the nothing is really something. She's gone. I have, with the 3 gems, also known as the 3 keys, freed Mom from her icosahedral prison. The once rotating shapes now lie dormant below. Heading back to the main area of the far shore, I head through the main teleporter, the only place I can think to check. Here, I find her. I approach softly, and she kneels down. A sword descends from above, and she slices me. I fall back, hurt. Panicking and not wanting the gas mask on anymore, I go to equip a different card. Already, it is too late. I am immediately struck down by Mom, also known as, the health bar informs me, the air. You know what? I'm beginning to think that lady isn't my mom. A repeat of the opening cutscene pans over an overworld now shrouded in night. At least one good thing came of this turn of events. I am now a ghost. I know where to go. Making my way forward, I run into a new ghost friend, but unfortunately there seems to be a little bit of a language barrier there. Making a quick stop on the far shore reveals that things are in a bit of an upheaval. Pink energy streaks through the sky, and once sturdy platforms are now destroyed. A cursory glance around the overworld reveals a few interesting facts. First, once existing pathways are now non-existent. For now, I am unable to reach most of the overworld and the lands beyond. Second, there now seems to be many new ghost friends, some of which do seem to speak something I can understand. Mostly, though, I can't make heads or tails of them. I try to head towards the forest fortress, and I find my pathway completely blocked by pink energy. I suppose there is only one place to go. Returning to the bottom right of the map, I find a new bridge, allowing me access to the obelisk. I quickly power it up, giving life to the swamp. I head down the ladder to check my handiwork. Now, upon heading into the old burying ground, the bonfire is active, the doors are open to me, and the mausoleum with the shopkeeper is no longer boarded up. Into the inner grounds I go. Making my way to the top strata of Earth, I find another chest with a coin and a new telescope through which to peer at the cathedral. I quickly fight my way through some skeletons using their own gravestones for shields, gotta respect that, and also some evil birds like the ones I fought in the ruined atoll. And of course, they steal my health. Running over another light bridge, I let down a metal ladder, linking this upper area to where the bonfire is located. Continuing on the pathway, I pass over the sixth and last hero's grave and head up some stairs. I activate an obelisk and continue the pink energy unto the cathedral, unlocking its door. I head inside and take a moment to rest at the bonfire. Checking my map, I study this new area. This map is, interestingly enough, vertical instead of the typical top-down view. As far as I can tell, there are 4 levels: the ground floor, the upper floor, the lower floor, and something even farther below that where, I remember noticing previously, must lie something spectacular. Straight ahead, I find many foxes with an eerie pink glow in their eyes. Sure enough, upon approach, they attack and, if they hit me, they steal part of my max health. Something extra precious at the moment since, as a ghost, I have been limited to only 2 bars. Whatever is worshipped in this cathedral can be nothing good. Chalices of pink liquid are placed on the altar next to candles. A statue of the air stands at the center holding a crystal, and a square hole in the ground is surrounded by skulls. That, I'm willing to bet, is my way down to the lower floors. Heading through an archway to the right, I find another fox to fight. In the next room, I find 3 more. One room further contains a giant pool as well as a particularly devout fox who moves very quickly and hits very hard. After a bit of trouble, I am able to defeat him. I let down a ladder, connecting the ground floor with the upper. Just ahead, I awake 2 of the quicker foxes and, fight them in hand-to-hand combat with lots of honor. One quick trip through a hallway and I behold the object of worship. Suspended upon crystals inside a great pink pool lies one of the creatures I now know inhabit the obelisks. Released from its obelisk, this being must have been brought here, either with or without its consent. Passing through a doorway, I find myself atop the altar. I quickly activate the obelisk and an elevator raises up, bringing with it a lot of skulls. Wonderful. Heading back through the doorway, the being is gone. Even more wonderful. On edge, I make my way back to the ground floor and take a rest at the bonfire. I activate the elevator and head downwards. Here, I will learn momentarily, is a sort of staging ground, a place to get prepared for what's to come. A bonfire is located here as well as the shopkeeper, ensuring that I am stocked with any necessary or helpful items. Checking my map, I can see I am on the lower level of the cathedral, and that the ladder before me, which seems to not extend the whole distance downwards, leads to the lowest level. Apprehensively, I head down. Welcome to the Gauntlet. 7 challenges, 2 bars of health. All must be completed in any order you choose. Approach the statue, light the candle, and the enemies will spawn, oftentimes in greater numbers than might have initially been suspected. Attempt number 1. I fend off the giant robots and barely survive the spam from the custodians, but funnily enough, the fairies turn out to be too much. There are so many of them, spamming the fire rod is a necessity. Attempt number 2, same story. Attempt number 3, I finally get it. Intense spam is the way. I also get through the skeletons, rudlings, and frogs and activate the last statue I hadn't seen before, which, it turns out, gives me some extra health, which is nice. I make it through the custodians as well with TNT spam, honor and dignity. But on the very last challenge, the robot barely jukes my stab and I fail to recover in time. That one hurts a little bit. Attempt number 4. Having done all of the challenges once, I start going through the gauntlet, starting with the hardest and working my way to the easiest. Of course, this time I kill the giant robots without taking a scratch, but I fall prey to the custodians. On to attempt number 5. Hilariously, on the very last set of enemies, I toss a frost bomb, freezing my enemies and also myself, unlocking my next achievement. Whoops. A few more hits and the gauntlet is completed. In the center of the arena appears a special glowing treasure chest. Opening it up, I am given the Laurel Crown of Energy and an achievement. You feel a tingling. My new crown allows me to, at long last, zip around. Gaps are no longer an issue. Using my new power, I quickly make my way out of the cathedral. Just outside, up a ladder, I find the very last hero's grave. However, this time, upon teleporting, I am able to reach the upgrade material in the center using my crown. I quickly grab the leaf and my stamina bar is no longer locked at 2 bars. The icon in my inventory is now golden. My next goal is clear. Visit each hero's grave and retrieve each of the 5 remaining upgrade materials. Back in the Twilight overworld, I grab the 3 pages I could not previously access. On the first, the full story is revealed. A battle with Mom, the heir, was inevitable. On the back is some extra information about data management, and there is that golden color again. On the second are some diagrams essentially explaining what I think I just discovered. My goal is to make each stat golden by visiting each hero's grave and collecting the corresponding upgrade material. On the back is the information I have been waiting for. The Holy Cross is revealed, and magic item though it may be, it is not in-game, but rather beyond it. The icon in the bottom left of the page informs me that the Holy Cross is simply the arrow keys. That's the secret. The magic artifact I was missing was available the whole time if only I knew where to look. Along with this revelation I am given a pattern. Down right, up left, up right. And I am shown the 3 metal doors I previously discovered, omitting the one from under the house. Closing my map, I approach the door and try out the pattern with my arrow keys. Sure enough, the door opens. Inside the door, I find yet another page. This one completes the rest of the Holy Cross page, revealing some hidden secrets. I did not understand this page at first, even if now it seems quite obvious what it was telling me about the Holy Cross. It didn't quite fully click for a little while. So for now, I'll keep the suspense of what exactly this page was telling me until we return to the topic of the Holy Cross and the things it can do. On the back page, I am given a goal. I must fight the heir to take my rightful place. However, there seems to be something more that I am missing. Another page might complete this story. On the third page I was unable to reach in the overworld, I am given some more lore. It seems that I was right. That being was taken to the cathedral by the heir and her followers, and something caused chaos afterwards. Next, the heir was imprisoned, likely as a bulwark against these attacking forces. And now a worthy successor is awaited, an heir to the heir. I must take my destined place. Only a small bit of text at the bottom hints towards something else. What is the Golden Path? I also discover one more set of pages guarded by the shopkeeper in a location I couldn't access without my crown. On the front is a plethora of vague hints including something about fairies, the door in the mountains, as well as a diagram depicting that secret circular room I happened to stumble upon by chance. On the back is a diagram depicting each of the heroes' graves and where they are on the map. Most of this was, more or less, already known, but one part in particular will help me find my way forward a bit later. I return to the other metal door in the overworld, use my pattern to open it, and find some chests with some money and a new card. However, returning to the door under my house, my pattern is no help. For some reason, this door will not budge. No matter, my quest right now is to travel to the heroes' graves. Puzzles can wait. Okay, there are 5 remaining heroes' graves. 1 in the library, 1 in the West Garden, 1 in the East Forest, 1 in the Forest Fortress, and lastly, 1 in the quarry, more specifically, in the monastery. Easy enough, it would appear. However, I am quickly reminded that many of the once existing pathways now either no longer exist or are outright blocked by the pink energy. This is going to be a bit more difficult than I had hoped. 1. I travel through the far shore to the library. Once here, I find the librarian's ghost. Hey buddy, sorry I killed you, I just really needed that key, you know. Anyways, working my way backwards, I approach the hero's grave, but unfortunately it is covered in pink and black guck. Down the stairs, I get some entertainment from pushing around the statue before it comes to life and kills me in one fell swoop. Of course, in the rematch, I discover there are actually 2 of these guys guarding the grave. Excellent. Making sure to stay on the right side so as to not wake up his friend, I circle around my foe and strike when able. After healing up, I repeat the process with the other. With my enemies defeated, I traverse the portal to the hero's grave, zip over to the mushroom and grab it, restoring my magic bar. On my way back, I make a quick detour to check on Mom. Don't worry, she's doing just fine. However, I don't think I'm going to win this fight limited to 2 bars of health, 3 health potions, and a sword which does a paltry amount of damage. 2. I have to take a bit of a circuitous route, but I am able to access the West Garden fairly easily. Right at the start is my next hero's grave. Here I grab the fox and power up my defense, unlocking the rest of my health potions. While here I unlock the third metal door using my code and find a sword, which I already have. An interesting discovery. Also while here I activate that obelisk I had been unable to activate previously using my zip power to access it. Now the warp to the West Garden should work. Heading there through the far shore, I take the teleporter and discover another page. Now it is revealed I have a choice. A. Take my rightful place, or B. Share my wisdom, using the power of the Holy Cross to traverse the golden path. For now, I remain steadfast in my resolve. On the back is half of the information about the fair. Guessing from my hints page, I'm willing to bet this is about fairies. I'm sure they won't need their own chapter or anything. 3. Back in the far shore and feeling stumped after trying the usual path to the East Forest and getting blocked, I take a closer look at the page listing all of the heroes' graves. Here, I make the connection. This icon is leading me to this page, to a little square hidden between some diagrams. The warp is on this map. Looking around, I discover some rubble which I am able to zip over onto, giving me access to the East Forest. Now, it makes sense. This pathway is now my only way in and out of the East Forest. I make my way through the East Forest, fighting a few enemies sent over, I guess, from the quarry. I pass through the hero's grave and grab the fang, powering up my strength. Now I should do a normal amount of damage. 4. Luckily, another easy one. I am able to teleport inside the eastern vault from the far shore. From here, I make my way outside and to the right. Unfortunately, I am ambushed by some spiders. I kill many of them, but for fun, I decide to risk it. I barely make the teleport off in time. I quickly grab the pink flower, restoring my health bar. Just one more to go. 5. The sixth and last hero's grave, including the one at the cathedral. This one is in the monastery in the quarry. The usual path is inaccessible, but luckily I remember the alternate route there, next to the door in the mountains. Heading there, I quickly discover why the usual way is blocked. The entire area is flooded with pink energy. Fortunately, I can still access the monastery. Also, I can finally access this bonfire, which I was never able to do previously. It's all beginning to make sense. Heading inside, I find the hero's grave blocked. Heading back, I am ambushed by the creature from the cathedral. However, my power is almost fully restored. I am able to best it with relative ease. I enter the last hero's grave and retrieve the white flower, restoring the power of my potions and restoring me to life. Earning an achievement. Your body is restored. Halfway to collecting all 36. Now, finally, I am fully equipped to fight Mom. I return to her arena for one final face-off. Oh look, my ghost is still here from the last time I visited, and it stunned her when I picked it up. That's pretty funny. My first attempt went about as well as first attempts usually go, but on just my second attempt, I give her a real challenge. With absolutely no health left, I make the final blow. Mom falls, defeated, and then stands back up, and pink power radiates through her body and sword. I should have guessed. Phase 2. With absolutely no health remaining, I quickly fall to her blade. On attempt number 3, I get just as far, but no farther. Respawning back in the overworld, I decide to give it one last go. With barely more than 0 health remaining, I strike the final blow. The air collapses to the ground. Looks up to the heavens and ascends upwards. She clutches her heart as power, or perhaps each of the 3 keys, is released, and then she dissipates. I awake in ghost form. Suddenly, a shape envelops me, entrapping me. Then another. And another. As the heir to the heir, I have fulfilled my purpose and become the new heir. Sealed inside the temple like the one which came before, holding the dark powers at bay. The credits roll. After the credits, back on the title screen, I am given an achievement. Game over. For finding my rightful place. However, I am not quite done yet. It appears that I missed some pages somewhere, and, in pursuit of my quest, I left a good many threads unexplored. With expectation, I decide to give it another chance. So, the Holy Cross. I was at the door in the mountains, poring over the manual, trying to make sense of what I was seeing when it finally clicked. A small diagram in the bottom right of these pages lists the pattern that unlocked the metal doors. But what I had missed earlier suddenly became clear to me. The pattern isn't random. It is derived from the pattern on the door. Start in the middle and work your way to the end. Down, right, up, left, up, right. Now that I saw it, it was painfully obvious. But wait, what if the pattern is different? Back in the top left of the overworld, I return to the golden monument where I found the magic wand. I start in the middle and type the pattern on my arrow keys. Up, right, down, right, up, left. Sure enough, I am rewarded for my efforts and a new page appears in front of me. This page, it turns out, is the counterpart to the page I had picked up earlier in the West Garden. Now, I can say for certain, these pages are about fairies. Specifically, it is about the Fairy Spring. There seems to be a secret gathering place for the fairies, which I've already been to and completely forgot about. More on that later. It also informs me of some sort of seeking spell. I'll try that in just a moment. After all, if this diagram is any indication, there appears to be quite a few fairies to help out. 20 to be precise. However, I have something else I'd like to do first. On the back of this page is something immediately striking. A giant golden block filled with numbers fills the page. Next to this is my little fox friend in front of the door in the mountain. I immediately put together that this might have something to do with the golden icon I spotted on the hints page, but for the time being I have other tasks to focus on. One such task is returning to the metal doors under my house. Now I know why they wouldn't open before. The pattern on these metal doors are different than the other 3. Using the Holy Cross, I enter this door's pattern and it opens, once again rewarding me with a page. On this one are some notes, cutely scribbled, I assume, by the fox. There is a lot to unpack here, but instead of trying to explain everything, I'll just bring up these patterns on this page when they become relevant later. Except this. This is just a cute drawing. It doesn't do anything except warm my heart. Oh, and also this one. I think this one heals you when you use it at the cost of some magic, but I never really used it outside of one random test. On the back, same story. I'll bring up these drawings when they are relevant later. One more note before moving on to my new objective. Returning to page 44, I realize now what these hidden secrets are. These are all the different things the Holy Cross can accomplish. The purple arrow represents the metal doors. This icon is the fairies, and this is the monument I just completed in the overworld. All that remains uncovered is the golden path, something I have been hinted towards multiple times. And I just so happened to find a large golden diagram recently. Still, one thing at a time. It will have to wait until later. Okay, time to focus on the fairies. I quickly jot down the seeking spell on pages 47 and 48. Up, left, up, right, down, right. I try it out and 3 little sprites appear and fly away. I quickly follow them, entering into the sealed temple. There they lead me to the beginning walkway and I finally take notice of the pattern on the ground. I decide to put the Holy Cross to the test. I try every combination I can think of. Part of the pattern is obscured by a pillar, so I have to fill in the gaps somewhat. However, I think I have a pretty good idea of it despite that, but nothing I try works. I try starting at the top and going down. I try starting at the bottom, going up. I try reading the whole thing from left to right or right to left. I try combining both mirrored patterns together, imagining this line at the top continues through the stairs. Nothing works. And I know, somehow, that this line is to blame. I'm not exactly sure what it means, but I know it is messing me up somehow. I decide to come back when I have a bit more experience with the Holy Cross. Instead, I decide to head to the Great Library, one of the places named on my list of fairies. It is here I find a great rug laid out on the ground. I decide to follow the pattern of the upper right quadrant, beginning in the middle. Up, right, down, right, up, left, and so on. Sure enough, a treasure chest appears. I quickly open it up, freeing my first fairy, who rewards me with an achievement. I'm free. 1 down, 19 more to go. Using my seeking spell, I find myself in the center of the west garden, staring at another pattern on the ground. However, this one is a little more straightforward and easier to read. After inputting it into the Holy Cross, another treasure chest appears. Another fairy is freed. I also make a quick stop at the left end of the west garden. Oh, that icon on my map I noticed before was a fairy. That makes sense. Anyways, the fairies lead me to a tree surrounded by flowers. Obviously, these flowers are in piles of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6, and I know that means something, but there doesn't seem to be any recognizable pattern like the others I just did. This one stumps me for the time being. On my way out, I take a moment to ponder 2 of the big golden blocks. 2 of the maybe 4 or so that I've seen during the course of my adventures, and I can't help but notice how pattern-like those lines are. Oh boy, one thing at a time. Back in the overworld, I am led to, you gotta be kidding me, some dirt lines in the wall. These patterns are gonna take over my life, aren't they? However, once again, I am stumped. The Holy Cross doesn't seem to work at all for some reason. Needing a win, I make my way to the East Forest, where my fairies lead me to this ghost doing an aerobic exercise. Even in the afterlife, she's still on that grind. Good for her. Of course, after watching for a little while to make sure I know what proper form looks like, I realize she is pantomiming a pattern. Up, down, and so on. I watch closely as she cycles through it and repeat the inputs with the Holy Cross. Next, in the Eastern Vault, I am led to a series of candles on the floor. Similar to the puzzle which stumped me in the West Garden, there doesn't seem to be any identifiable pattern. I know it has something to do with these candles though, and I try a couple of random things. Nothing. In the overworld, I run into the same problem with these shapes surrounding a place I found on a page recently. I decide to stand in the middle and then I figure it out. Start with the middle and press the key corresponding to the numbers. 1 is below me, so down. 2 is left. 3 is also left, then down for 4, up for 5, right for 6, which is partially cut off, and then 7 is down. Down, left, left, down, up, right, down, and a chest appears. Be free, little fellow. I was definitely overthinking that one. I quickly repeat this process in both the Eastern Vault and the West Garden, both puzzles being identical to this one. Next, I'm led to a series of flowers on the floor. Fortunately, my manual has a perfectly good diagram depicting a pattern using a flower as the starting point. I write this pattern down and nothing. Then I find another flower pattern on the beach, this one actually matching the pattern in my manual. This time the pattern works and I understand why it works. Starting with the pink flower, I must work my way to the end. Up, right, down, left, until all the flowers have been connected. I head back to the other flower pattern and do its unique pattern. up, left, down, left, all the way to the end. Sometimes it just takes a second. Next, I discover 3 different rooms underneath the 3 bridges in the overworld, none of which I had managed to stumble upon before. In the first, I discover an hourglass, a new magic item allowing me to freeze time. That would have probably been very helpful when I was fighting a lot of enemies. A pattern on the wall stumps me, and once again, I know it is because of these weird lines with crossbars through them. I still don't know what to do with those yet. In the next, I discover an empty room with only a chest in the middle containing lots of money. In the last, I find what I can only describe as upsetting. I immediately recognize that this is a puzzle, but as for trying to solve it, I think I'll put this one off for a little while. All 3 of these rooms contain a fairy, so I'll be returning to each momentarily. Next, I am directed to my house. Upon entering, I am immediately reminded of the tapestry I noticed a while ago. Now, it is obvious. It contains a pattern. Unfortunately, this one contains lots of crossbars, which, up until now, I haven't been able to do anything with. However, this time, perhaps due to its shorter length, I crack the code. Each crossbar just means you have to hit that direction on the Holy Cross more than once. In this case, up, up, right, down, right, up, right, down, down. I thought I had tried this earlier with another puzzle, but I probably messed up my input somewhere, which really set me back. Oh well, at least I'm on the right track now. With another fairy freed and a new solution method available, I set out to free some more fairies. With this knowledge about crossbars, I am quickly able to solve the puzzle in the sealed temple. My 10th fairy, halfway done. Also, I complete the puzzle above where I found the timepiece, except this time, instead of giving me a chest, a wall opens up and yet another puzzle is revealed. Heading up this tower, I recognize another pattern in the pathway I just traveled, with a few crossbars thrown in for good measure. I am able to solve this one easily. I mean, dizzily. Now, I am making good progress. Next, this dirt wall. And this, okay, listen. I had to go around the corner for the last bit of the pattern. It had been so long since I had opened the chest here, I just forgot. In my defense, the camera doesn't really change perspectives in the overworld other than this one time. Excuses aside, at least now that I have the full picture, the dirt pattern works. Speaking of forgetting things, on one of the fairy pages there is a place called the Secret Gathering Place. This, it turns out, is behind this waterfall. This was even hinted at on the other fairy page as the fox is exploring behind a waterfall. I just simply forgot this place existed, even though I've been here multiple times before. My bad. Inside I find all of the fairies that I have freed so far, as well as a page. On this page is, oh, that does not look like a good sign. Lots of circles filled with symbols. I'm going to pretend I didn't see that for right now. Below is a diagram I immediately recognize as that circular room I stumbled upon earlier. More on this later. On the back is the back cover. Oh, it's kind of a melancholic feeling reaching the end of the manual. At least I know from the game over screen that there is still one more page out there somewhere. On the wall here, I can't help but notice, is a pattern. Who would have guessed it? This one is a little tricky. I can only really see about 2/3 of each pattern, but since they are both the same, I am able to sort of composite each of them together to write out one cohesive pattern. After some effort, I am successful. And this fairy doesn't have very far to go at all. For their next trick, the fairies lead me behind a different waterfall in the overworld where I had never been before. Here I find a chest with some money, but also a hidden pathway where I stumble upon a rudeling patrolling in the dark. It doesn't take me long to figure out that this puzzle is just like the aerobics instructor one in the East Forest. With a bit of patience, I write out his movements and I am rewarded with my next fairy. Next, the fairies lead me to an interesting location in the overworld. Trusting them fully, with my life, I chuck some dynamite at the wall, and sure enough, it gives way. Inside, I find a rotating cube. Yeah, I know the drill. This one is a little tricky as I have to orient myself a little bit, but before long this puzzle too can be checked off the list. 5 more to go. Luckily, the next one is an easy one. Making my way back to the quarry, I spot a bunch of shrub things on the ground, arranged very suspiciously. I repeat exactly what I had done with the flower puzzles, working from the center to the end. Alright, now come the harder ones. As I approach the broken golden monument in the lower east forest, I know what needs to be done. No more putting it off. Revisiting the 4 broken pieces I have discovered in my journey. 1 in the western side of the overworld beach, 1 on the eastern side, 1 in the west garden, and 1 in the swamp. I painstakingly draw out each of the shapes and patterns inscribed in them, doing my best to create the correct scale. Then I cut out each shape with scissors and put them together like a puzzle, with another piece representing the base. This gives me the full pattern. On my first attempt, I managed to miss a tiny line to the right, which is deliberately positioned in such a way as to be easily missable. Alright, you got me, Andrew. But eventually, my Frankenstein puzzle triumphs over the golden ruins. After this, I return to the spinny cave. And this one, I'm gonna be honest right now, I really don't know how I managed to do it. I did. I have the pattern written out on a page right in front of me. It is a symmetrical pattern, and recognizing that was definitely key. But I stared at this wall for a long time, and scribbled quite a few incorrect shapes and patterns before finding the correct one in the distorting rotations of this cave. But I did eventually. The last 2. First is this dark cave. The problem with this one is there is absolutely nothing to go off of here. It is just darkness and a single treasure chest which had money in it. I try lighting up the darkness with magic, but that does nothing. I make sure I'm in the right place. I am. Only a faint ringing breaks the silence. Digging through my manual, I decide to try a Hail Mary. There is one pattern on page 52 which I hadn't used anywhere else. I decide to give it a go. Up, left, down, left, up, right, down, right, up, right, down, left, up, up. Almost unbelievably, it works. Well, that was lucky. Lastly is this metal monument in the overworld. Inspecting it gives me a row of symbols. At first, I think these have something to do with this set of symbols in my manual, but I should have been looking a couple of pages earlier. On page 52, right beside the previous puzzle's solution, is a shape which I inspect closely. At the same time, I write down each of the 4 shapes from the monument's inscription and lay them out together. It is then that I notice it. These 4 shapes come together to form this one. The lines from the notebook page are the lines slicing through each of the 4 shapes on the monument's inscription. This shape, I realize, is the compass rose, pointing out which shape is up, which is right, which is down, and which is left. All that remains is to review the inscription and write down the pattern of 16 inputs. Then I input the pattern into the Holy Cross. At last, the final fairy is freed. Triumphantly, I return to the secret gathering place where the fairies have arranged a little gift. Opening the chest, I am presented with a golden flower and an achievement, Spring Falls. It reads, Found Secret Treasure number 7. Number 7? Okay then, I see how it is. Out of the frying pan and into the fire. So, remember way back in the introduction when I mentioned I was giving myself 5 hints to help me along my journey? You might have been wondering what exactly happened to those 5 hints. Well, wait no longer, because we have finally arrived at the secret treasures of Tunic. A few of the puzzles required to reach these treasures are, as you will soon see, quite simple, but others are, quite abstruse. Anyways, the secret treasures of Tunic are an interesting lot. As we've already seen, they are golden objects which act as rewards for all sorts of puzzles. Judging by the pedestals in the circular room, a room I will now refer to as the trophy room, there are 12 of them. I just got the 7th of them from freeing all of the fairies, and while it would be nice to do them in numerical order, that isn't really feasible for reasons which will become apparent in a moment. Instead, let me start at the beginning. Picking up page 54 for the first time, it is obvious to me that this diagram is a representation of the trophy room. However, there are two things on this page I didn't discuss earlier. First is this tentacled gentleman located right in the center of everything. I can't help but notice he shares a striking resemblance to those ruinous beings mentioned in my lore pages. Second are the numbers which fill each pedestal, scribbled inside each circle in pen. Two icons even have multiple numbers. After a bit of research, I understand what these are telling me. Each number is, obviously, a page. Turning to one of these pages, 48 for example, I notice a pen mark underneath the list of the 20 fairies, which reads 100%. This makes sense. After collecting every fairy, in other words, 100%ing them, I was rewarded with a secret treasure. Reviewing some of the other pages listed on page 54 reveals a similar pen marking on each one of which I had even remarked on previously. My next goal, then, is obvious. Use these hints written in pen on each of the 12-ish pages to uncover the 12 secret treasures. Well, 11 now. Sounds easy enough. And to start, it is quite easy. I actually began solving the puzzles already, while still a ghost. While visiting the heroes' graves, I remember that one area in the forest fortress that I was unable to access previously. I quickly make my way over using the crown. Here, I find 4 piles of leaves and a broom. I quickly smack each of the piles and a chest appears. Inside is a golden broom and an achievement, Dusty. The next one, however, is a little more complicated. My hint is on page 53. In fact, there are 2 separate hints located on page 53. I'm going to make an educated guess and say this is for one of them and this is for the other one. I start with the windmill. Wait a second, there is a windmill in the overworld too. And with all of the pattern solving experience from last chapter, I think I can put together what this is trying to tell me. Making my way over to the windmill, I take note for the first time of the different cutouts present in each square of fabric. These, my notebook informs me, represent different inputs on the Holy Cross: up, right, down, and left. Now, all I have to do is find out where to start. Right after that cord linking the bottom row to the top seems like a good place. I write out the inputs, following the cord from the top to the bottom to get the correct pattern. I enter it into the Holy Cross. Next is page 28, another page which contains 2 hints. Focusing on this book, I am led to the pattern in the hallway I had stumbled upon earlier when I was so young and innocent. Now I simply enter the pattern into the Holy Cross. So far, I'm making great progress. I make a quick detour to check on the trophy room. Here I find the 4 statues I have collected so far sitting on their respective pedestals, spinning around. How pleasant. Next, trying to do the treasures in order, I attempt to decipher the hint of page 40. However, this isn't much of a hint. I kind of already figured there was something there, and I looked for a secret passageway when I originally went through the cathedral, but I didn't discover anything. I thought it might have something to do with this pattern down here, but that turned out to be unrelated. For now, I leave empty-handed. Outside, I decide to make an attempt at page 39. Located on this page is what is obviously a skull, along with the number 4. Making my way over to the location marked on the map, I notice a peculiar red skull on a gravestone, which I hit into a deep hole filled with water. I also notice another red skull, which I push, likewise, into a nearby lake. Above, I remember passing, is yet a third red skull, which, as I return, I realize is better off joining the first rather than the second. In fact, I quickly push the second skull into the same hole as well. I quickly push this red skull into the... stuck on a rock. Luckily, in my struggle with this one, I spot the fourth hidden behind a gravestone. This one proves to be as equally uncooperative. Eventually, however, I prevail. Very eventually. The next one, on page 41, proves to be comparatively easy. On the map for the far shore is an arrow written in pen to the left. In the far shore itself there is nothing, but I decide to zip into the void anyways. Fortunately, there appears to be some nothing here to stand on. Next, I make my way into the lower section of the East Forest to deal with the other drawing on page 53. The little diagram leads me to this little guy way up on a cliff face. The icons in the book are easy enough to read. Magic Dagger, Magic Wand, and Magic Orb. I equip all three and try to use them on the hook below the little guy, but that doesn't do anything. Of course, upon closer inspection, I decided it is probably not the best idea to ignore the parentheses. The Magic Dagger and the Magic Wand need to be used together? Worth a shot. Pressing both buttons together, I fire a freezing blast, solidifying the little slug guy. Then I grapple onto him, gaining the high ground. I thank you, little friend, for your sacrifice. With 7 of the secret treasures collected, I decide to pay another visit to the trophy room. This time, however, I discover something new. A glowing ball of energy fills the center of the room. Entering in, I find myself in a strange land on a tower filled with statues of those foreboding creatures. I make a couple rotations around this odd parapet, but there doesn't seem to be anything to do here for the time being. So, I head back. On page 11, I search for my next hint. It takes me a while to notice it, but then I spot them. Little pin marks on the, oh, that's clever, on the prize/treasure indicator. With all of my recent experience, it isn't hard to recognize that this is a job for the Holy Cross. As for where to enter this pattern, I think I have a pretty good guess. I go to the location on page 11 and enter in the pattern. Returning to page 28, I locate my next target, a small music note and an arrow pointing to the old house. I quickly make my way there and locate the only thing making music, the wind chimes. Also, from studying page 54, I learned that this puzzle actually has 2 hints. One on the overworld map page, the aforementioned music note, and one on the ruined atoll page. There are actually 2 hints on this page for 2 different secret treasures, but this one I quickly rule out. This one must be for a different secret treasure. But this icon of a bird catches my eye. Here I also find the compass rose shape which I utilized in the last chapter. Alright, all the pieces are here. Somehow the wind chimes notes mean up, right, down, and left. All that is left to do is listen and write things out. And so, I listen to the wind chimes. I quickly recognize what I think is 4 notes: F, A sharp, D sharp, and C. That must be it. Each note represents a direction. The highest note is up, then the next highest note is right, and then, well, I'm not 100% sure, but I'll try all the different possibilities if it comes to that. However, I get stuck before I can even begin. Listening to the sounds of the chimes, I just simply cannot find a repeatable pattern of notes. And I listen for so long. I record the audio and play it back. I watch my recording over and hum the notes into a pitch detector to make sure I'm not missing anything. And look, I'm not the most musically gifted person ever, but I played an instrument in high school. I should be able to record a series of notes, but I'm going crazy. Every time I feel I'm close, I keep hearing double notes. Notes which at first I think are one note, and then I think is another. I write strings of dozens and dozens of letters out, hoping to find a pattern, but unfortunately, I may have met my match. However, I just so happen to have one last resource at my disposal: my hints. I think now is as good a time as any to use one. So, I request my first hint. The hint is as follows. The solution is found on page 34. Well, that's a little anticlimactic. I already knew about this hint on page 34, but now I know I must have overlooked something. And sure enough, after having listened to the taunting chimes for so long, I recognized my error. I had failed to appreciate the significance of the little notes written in pen marking each direction, something I should have been paying extra attention to. I thought the clue on this page was that the notes from the wind chimes indicated different directions, but what I had failed to realize was that this diagram was also telling me which direction each pattern of notes represents. When two notes are played quickly in an ascending order, that means up, regardless of which note either of them is. The only thing that matters is their relationship to each other. If the opposite happens and the two notes descend, that means down. If the two notes are the same, that means right. And lastly, if two different notes are played at the same time, that means left. Thankfully, I now understand what was happening to me. Double notes. Two notes played at the same time. I thought I was going crazy hearing a note as an F one moment and a D sharp the next. Obviously, I'm a little rusty, but fortunately I still have some musical acuity somewhere since, after a long while and a lot of writing, I am able to figure out the pattern the notes are making. Up, down, right, up, down, left, up, down, left, right, up. In my search for the next treasure, I take a closer look at page 34, specifically the other pen marking which I have not yet used, this little arrow mark tucked between two enemy descriptions. Immediately, I think of the secret treasure I found in the far shore. If I'm right, there is likely a secret pathway located where the arrow is, only accessible using the crown. However, try as I might, I am unable to access the ruined atoll. I have not been able to go there ever since Mom killed me. A large wall of pink and black energy blocks my path. At first, I think maybe I can sneak by here, where I once followed the bird, and the bird is written here on this page in pen, but unfortunately that doesn't work. I even try going backwards through the library, hoping that the teleporter can somehow take me backwards through it. Same story, completely blocked here as well. Unfortunately, I realize I don't even have a guess for this one. I'm completely stuck. I decide to use my second hint. It reads, "You can sleep in your bed." Oh, so I suppose that one is a little on the nose, but at least it gets its point across. I never thought to actually try sleeping. It had never occurred to me that day and night could be interchanged at will. Heading back to my house, I take a quick rest in my bed. When I wake up, it is day. Now I can make my way to the ruined atoll with ease. And, just like I thought, the secret treasure is right where the arrow pointed. I just needed a little help to make it here. After this, I decide to take a break from puzzle solving to meander around the overworld for a bit, and I stumble upon a room I somehow never managed to stumble upon before in my explorations. In this room is a bunch of those partitions which are often used to change clothes in privacy. I head behind one and my appearance is changed. Each one, in fact, modifies something different. My tunic, my scarf, even my fur. There's even a hidden one in the corner which changes my little tuft of hair. Ultimately, however, I decide to stick with the classic look. Importantly, in this room is also a chest containing a coin. The last coin, in fact, which I needed to get my fifth and final card slot, including the two sold by the shopkeeper, which I haven't purchased yet. All that is left now is to farm up enough coins to buy them. In no time, I have enough and I purchase both of the coins, head to the nearby well, and toss each of them in, increasing my total number of wishes to 15. This earns me my fifth card slot and an achievement. Well done. Now, only 2 secret treasures remain. Unfortunately, these are the 2 hardest in the game. The first, which I had already made an attempt at earlier, is located in the cathedral. Returning there, I stumble around for a very long time, attempting to find something to go off of, some sort of secret opening or clue of any sort. Now, looking back and knowing the answer, if I would have solved the puzzle this way, it would have been blind luck. So, in a way, I'm glad I did not, but making no progress is never fun. The second is even less clear. My hint says page 51 with an arrow pointing to page 1. Referencing page 51, I find lots of little symbols written in pen next to some of the cards. These, it turns out, have nothing to do with anything. They aren't part of it, oddly enough. No, what I am looking for is this little star next to a lot of runes. The only part I can read says 60 seconds, and a page telling me to shh. I guess this one really is a secret. As with the previous puzzle, I have no clue how to proceed. Unable to make any progress with either of these puzzles, I decide to use my third of 5 hints to reveal to me what I should already know. The hint reads, translate. There was, at one point, a moment I thought that the language of Tunic was not meant to be translated. Perhaps it was wishful thinking, but I don't think so. Instead, I think it was a genuine assumption that no one would be crazy enough to forge an entirely novel writing system as an extra bonus for those especially dedicated players to try and crack. My assumption, of course, was wrong. The language of Tunic, affectionately dubbed Trunic by the community, is fully comprehensible. And, as I was to learn, I was about to become much, much more familiar with its construction. I won't lie, I was tired at this point, and in a moment of weakness I did something I probably should not have done. I used my fourth hint to get started. I already knew that the diagram on page 54 was the key to the language, and especially these two symbols here, and with some persistence I might have been able to make sense of what they were telling me, but instead I used my penultimate hint, one less available for later. This hint read, fox and sword. Okay, so that is my starting point. The first of these symbols means fox, and the second means sword. To begin, however, I need to do a little parsing. First, I take each word and break it down into its component runes. The top, fox, is made up of 3, but if I take note of this diagram, which informs me that this first symbol is actually made up of 2 separate runes combined, I can see that the top word is actually made up of 4 runes total. And I've learned something. Different runes can combine together. The bottom symbol tells me essentially the same thing. Sword is made up of 2 runes, but really, since 2 different runes combine to make the first one, it is really made up of 3 total. This, at first, makes no sense. Fox is a shorter word than sword. How can it possibly be comprised of more runes? Is this an entirely different language besides English? The answer to this question lies in the small ovals, easy to miss, which circle 2 of the runes. Upon closer inspection, it is clear that these 2 runes are identical. The bottom one is combined with another rune, but the base rune is the same, this line with 2 other lines protruding from it. So now that I know that something in these 2 words can be indicated with the same runic symbol, I look for anything which these 2 words have in common, and I find it in the sibilant sound of S. Sword is easy, the S is right there at the start, but fox is a bit more difficult. However, saying the word slowly, I notice something. F, A, K, S. 4 sounds. This process can be repeated with the second word, S, or D. 3 sounds. These numbers perfectly line up with the number of runes on the page, 4 for the first word, and 3 for the second. Now we have a start. Before I can really begin, however, I make sure I have an understanding of exactly how these runes are constructed and what they represent. Reviewing the chart, I notice there are actually 2 sets of runes, indicated by the subtle differences between these 2 groupings, such as their size and position in the circles. The easiest way I realize is to think of these 2 groups as outside runes and inside runes. These, as I just learned, can be combined together to form a single runic whole, representing 2 sounds. Although it looks like, importantly, only one outside rune can be combined with one inside rune. This makes sense, since trying to combine 2 of the same type would overlap. Writing down each of the sounds which I gathered from fox and sword leads me to another interesting conclusion. Each word has a total of 1 outside rune. All of the others are inside runes, and each outside rune is in the exact place where the vowel sound of the word is, A for fox, or for sword. From this, I assume that each outside rune represents a different vowel sound in the English language, and each inside rune represents a different consonant sound. Importantly, each one represents a sound, not a letter. As with both of these examples, more than one letter is used. A, W, A is one rune. Same with O-R, or. The combined sound is what is important. 2 more things before continuing. First, I quickly figure out that Trunic is broken up into pieces by lines which connect different runes together, as can be seen in this writing below the runes on page 54. After a bit of work, I determine what these mean. These lines are used to mark words. For example, this first sentence is composed of 5 words, 5 groups of runes, each connected with a through line. This is how words are distinguished from one another in Trunic. Second, some words have a little dot at the bottom of certain runes. It took me a little bit to figure out exactly what these meant, but with a very helpful hint on page 21, I was able to decipher their meaning. When 2 runes are combined in Trunic to create a runic whole, the consonant sound is always read first, and then the vowel sound. This was the case for both fox and sword, but sometimes words have a vowel sound which must be read before the consonant sound. In such cases, a small circle at the bottom of the word is used to designate that the runic whole must be read vowel first, such as with the word I find here. Without the dot, this would read my, but with it, it reads I'm, as in, I'm stuck. Well, no longer, my little fox friend. Alright, so with all of the initial work completed, I now had a list of 42 runes to decipher, 18 vowel groups, and 24 consonant groups. I'm not going to go over how I figured out each and every rune for the sake of time. My general strategy was to guess what I thought the book was saying, write out the runes and what their sounds would be if my guess was correct, and repeat that process until I was fairly confident which runes represented which sounds. For example, if I found that one rune was continually used in words where I thought an L should be, after the third time or so, I marked that rune as an L in my translation key. Of course, Tunic couldn't make it easy on me. Many things are not obviously named, such as this warp name to the library, which does not say library, but instead is called stolen device. Threw some brain cells away trying to decipher that one for a while. Or the green bar sometimes being called stamina, and sometimes vigor. Or including 2 runes for TH, one for the voiced sound and one for the non-voiced sound, as in the difference between the and the voiced TH, the non-voiced TH. 1 rune for each of them. That was a fun trick. But there were some kindnesses too. Page 12 was essential, giving me all the runes for the sounds in shield, roll, potion, and move. I'll put my full scribblings on the screen, chaotically organized and in no particular order, which I used to decipher each of the 42 runes, even the more obscure ones such as J, Oi as in coin, and J as in treasure. But after roughly 4.5 hours or so of poring over my manual, I had it. A complete key for each of the runes. Tunic was now readable. Now that I am able to understand the entirety of my manual, not just the already translated portions, there are lots of things to notice. Lots of little hints, lore, and Easter eggs are available to be discovered within its pages. I take a little bit of time to look around the manual to see what I can discover, but eventually it is time to get back to the task at hand. After all, 2 treasures remain to be found. The first is the one in the cathedral. Now that I am able to translate the map, I look through the various numbered objects called out in the diagram, and one in particular catches my eye. Number 6. In the library, there is a double secret. Making my way back to the cathedral, I quickly identify this room as the library because of, the books. I smash my face against every wall. I throw TNT around willy-nilly, and fortunately, I find the secret door. Heading inside, I find a chest with an effigy inside it. More on those in a minute. But I find nothing else. However, since I know this is a double secret, I keep pressing on, and I quickly locate the second hidden wall behind the treasure chest. I swiftly make my way through the underground cavern until I stumble upon a bridge. This bridge gives me safe passage across the chasm, but it also blocks me from actually accessing the chest with the treasure. Referencing my manual, number 8 tells me a little bit more about this bridge. It reads, "A moonlit bridge blocks access to a treasure." So, I think to myself, what if I get rid of the moonlight? On the wall, I find a pattern. Entering this pattern into the Holy Cross opens up a door, and I am led outside the cathedral. Here I find myself in an area I had been before, under the main entrance. After one quick climb up the ladder, I find myself at the entrance of the cathedral again. Immediately, I make my way back to my house in the overworld, and, once again, I sleep, changing the world from night to day. However, making my way back to the old swamp, I find the doors closed and unwilling to open. I try a couple of different methods to get into the inner grounds with no luck, but eventually I discover the way inside, zipping over some pillars in the wall which blocked me. Back at the cathedral, I climb down the ladder, go through the opening, and discover the treasure chest is now accessible. Only one secret treasure remains. The first thing I do is check my manual for further instructions, reminding myself that the hint for this one is on page 51 with an arrow pointing to page 1. Wait, page 1? The earliest page I currently have is page 3, with the table of contents before that. Hey everyone, come close. Closer. So look, this is page 1. I found it already, but listen, I technically haven't found it yet in the video, but I need it here for this puzzle, so I'm in a bit of a predicament. So I have a deal I'd like to make. I'll show you page 1 now for the puzzle's sake, but you have to promise to act all excited when I find it later in the next chapter, like you've never seen it before, okay? Just a little mixing up of the timeline between friends, got it? Okay, now act natural. Oh look, page 1, there it is. And in the bottom right of this page, I find another star, written in pen just like on page 51. Returning to that page, I set to work translating the text using my key. Zoom. Well, that wasn't too hard. Now it reads, "Did you retain the letter from us? Immerse it in water for 60 seconds to see a secret message." Got it. And look, that is what is happening in the diagram too. Submersion. Returning to page 1, I find what must be the letter in question. A letter from the developers takes up the right side of the page with the star directly at the bottom. This, I realize, must be submerged. Closing my manual, I realize that I can't exactly just soak the book itself, so I settle for the next best thing, soaking myself. First, I head to the west garden, remembering the water there, but that water barely makes it past my knees. I don't think that's going to cut it. Instead, I head back to the old swamp, where I definitely remember there being some deeper water. Sure enough, I find a goodly sized pool and plop myself down to wait for a minute. After 60 seconds, I open my manual and find my next clue. This clue reads, Zaum. The softest feather, corrected 11 times, departed once more. Alongside this riddle is a diagram of a hook thing. This I instantly recognize. I've run around this world so much I figure at this point I'd better recognize it. This hook is located in the overworld, here, right next to one of the fairy flower puzzles. A long time ago I collected a chest here. In the center I find a nice pool to cool off in while I attempt to decipher this final riddle of the 3-part solution for the 12th and last secret treasure of Tunic. I won't keep this suspense very long. I couldn't figure this one out. The riddle can be easily separated into 3 parts. The first line, the softest feather. The second, corrected 11 times. And the third, departed once more. The first line, after a bit of thinking, is simple enough. What is the softest feather? Down feathers. This, I assume, means the pattern begins with down. The second line is trickier. Corrected 11 times isn't really much to go off of, but with a bit of contemplating I have what I think is the solution. Going off the theme from the first puzzle, synonyms, what is another word for corrected? To right something. If something is righted, then it is set on the correct path. So, corrected 11 times must mean right, and I suppose it means right 11 times. The third and last line shares this theme, departed once more. One thing is instantly clear. Another word for departed is left. That much is obvious. And this, I think, must be the solution. Down, right 11 times, and then left. So, I try that, and nothing happens. Okay, maybe I have something wrong. Maybe corrected 11 times means that the down needs to be corrected to right 11 times total. So, down right 11 times, and then end it with left. Nothing. Of course, with no indication if any of my deductions are correct or incorrect, I haven't a clue where exactly I've gone wrong. As always, I try a wide variety of things. I revisit my good friend the scared bird, thinking somehow maybe I can lure him to the center of the hook. I know it is a long shot, but he does have feathers. I take a painstakingly close look at all of the signatures on page 1. After all, they are written in pen, and at this point I wouldn't be surprised by anything. I get to admire some great handwriting, but I don't discover any hints. Unfortunately, I am completely and utterly stuck. But before I give up completely, I remember something. So far, I've been stuck like this before, 4 previous times. 4 other times I needed just a little nudge in the right direction. But, I realize, I am not out of hints. I have not yet reached my limit of 5. I have one more lifeline to call on. After this, no more will be available, but I don't think I'll be needing any more after this anyways. I decide to do it. I use my 5th and final hint. It reads, once more than what? Once more than what? That is a bit confusing, but I quickly reread over the riddle for what must be the 100th time. The softest feather, down, corrected 11 times, right times 11, departed once more, left. Once more than what? Then I get it. Once more than the previous line. Once more than 11. The answer to the third line isn't just left, it is left times 12. With anticipation, I try out my new pattern. Down, right, 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 left, 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 left. Opening the last treasure chest, I'm given my 33rd achievement for collecting the last of the 12 secret treasures. I needed some help along the way, that's true, but I am happy with what I was able to accomplish. I found patterns in a windmill and in the jingling of notes from a wind chime. I cleaned up leaves, kicked some skulls around, and hooked onto a slug. I found hidden areas, hidden secrets, and worked through puzzles with multiple layers of complexity. I even translated a whole new writing system by hand. But most importantly, I had fun doing it. However, before I head to the trophy room to bask in the triumph of achievement, there is one thing I must accomplish first. The final objective of Tunic. Option B, share my wisdom. After all, as my manual says, wisdom that is untempered by kindness is no wisdom at all. It is about time I used the wisdom I have gained for one last act of kindness. I must use the power of the Holy Cross and traverse the Golden Path. The Golden Path, the grand finale of Tunic. Like the Holy Cross before, it is, at first, not entirely clear what is even meant by the term, the Golden Path. I know what it is supposed to accomplish. I will gain wisdom. And I also know that I'm supposed to use the Holy Cross to traverse it. Is it then a pathway? Is it a puzzle? Well, yes, it is. The Golden Path is a combination of both. It is a puzzle which opens the door in the mountains. But how to get started? It all begins with page 49. I think it is a pretty safe bet to say that this golden diagram probably has something to do with the Golden Path. Noticing this starting point at the bottom, I also think it is safe to assume that this golden drawing will reveal a pattern to input into the Holy Cross. It isn't hard to figure out that each of these numbers must represent page numbers, and each of these pages must give me some part of the pattern to input into the Holy Cross. All that is left is to discover where to find these patterns. I begin with page 12, the first block after the start. On this page I don't see anything immediately, but then I spot it. A small golden square to the right of the controller. Intersecting through this square are two lines running from the potion and use item diagrams. I realize now what I must do. I copy these lines and write them in the spot where they belong within the golden diagram on page 49. This gives me the next part of the pattern. Each square, a new piece of the puzzle. I set out to find each one. With every page researched, the full pattern is revealed. The golden path lies before me. I carefully enter it into the Holy Cross. Up, left, down, left, down, left, up, right, up, right, down, right, up, left, down, left, up, right, down, right, up, right, down, left, down, right, up, right, down, right, up, right, down, right, down, left, down, right, down, down, left, down, right, down, right, up, right, down, right, up, right, down, left, up, left, down, left, up, right, up, left, up. At the top of the mountain lies the very last page of Tunic. At long last I have found the front cover, and I am gifted an achievement. Thank you for playing. On the back is a letter from the developers and some credits. And with that, my manual is now completed. All that remains is to visit the heir/mom. Well, actually I do have 2 things I need to do before that. First, on the back cover of my manual is written a puzzle in Tunic. After translating the page, it reads, "Under the moon lies a special place. Contemplate this prayer near an ancient tomb, plundered for its blade, with a pattern following after it." Immediately, I recognize exactly where this puzzle is leading me, to the hero's grave where I first received my sword in the East Forest. Making my way there, I approach the hero's grave and enter in the pattern on the back cover into the Holy Cross. This chest grants me 1 coin, nothing else. But did you hear that? Let me play it again. So, it turns out that these notes are actually conveying something. In this case, these notes mean the word holy. You see, Tunic actually has another secret to peel back. Another secret language other than Tunic, functioning much in the same way, with consonant and vowel sounds indicated by the relationship of musical notes to each other. This language is called Tunic by the community. Tunic is everywhere. It is in the seeker's bell saying, this way, fox friend, this way," when a fairy is nearby. In the turrets saying halt or stay when they spot you, or ow, 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 or bye bye when they are destroyed. Or that jingle of notes when opening something with the Holy Cross, which means, here. There are dozens of examples, far more than we have time for now. So instead I will tell you my favorite, which is, of course, the big fairy speech which plays when you free the fairy in the secret gathering place, which is playing right now. It says, "Oh hey there, what a journey to over here. Ha, nah, I'm joking around. Really glad to be out of that cold tiny chest and moving into this cold damp cave. What an upgrade." I'm kidding, but seriously, if you see Andrew out there, tell him to stop putting me in that box. No, really, you're a good kid. Good luck with the heir, or should I say, as the heir. Whoa, spoilers, look out. But no, I mean it. Forge your own path, golden or otherwise. Either way, I'm back in the box, right? Second, I suppose it is probably a good time to revisit the trophy room. Heading there, I enter in to find all 12 trophies displayed proudly on their pedestals. Quickly, I enter into the inner sanctum. Here I find myself once again atop the parapet with strange statues all around. Not knowing how to proceed, I consult my manual for instruction, and I find some on page 54. Translating the runes next to the diagram I used to find the secret treasures gives me 3 instructions. 1. Find some rare golden statues. Okay, done. 2. Traverse the glow to visit 12 strange beings. Also done. I'm here. 3. Unsing to them the greatest song, the song of the golden path, as seen from within. Oh, okay. So these beings want me to prove I'm familiar with the golden path. I assume this means they want me to enter in the pattern I used to open the door in the mountains, here. But 2 things jump out at me from their instructions. First, they want me to unsing it. So I take that to mean the only thing I think it can. I must start at the end and work my way back to the beginning, unsinging the song. Second, they want me to unsing this song as seen from within. So mentally, I picture what the golden path would look like if I was sitting inside, looking at it from the back. This, I realize, would flip the pattern horizontally, mirroring it. So, I need to enter in the golden path into the Holy Cross, mirrored and starting in the middle and working backwards. Got it. I set out to do so, and immediately great runes appear above each of the statues. Once the pattern is completed, I set about translating the runes above each statue. Together, they read, "Do you fear the eyes of the far shore? .co." Well, that is confusing. To answer your question, not really. Even though you all don't look like the friendliest bunch of tentacled monsters, I've seen worse. And that was as far as I got. I made it this far. I entered in the pattern correctly. I translated it accurately, but I didn't realize that the .co at the end was actually another hint. This phrase was actually a website. Do you fear the eyes of the far shore .co. On this website is a beast, horrible and hypnotizing, making unnatural utterances while dissonant music plays. Try to full screen this webpage and you'll be rewarded with an extra close-up view of the eyes of the far shore, which, alright, I guess I'm a little afraid of now. Downloading this website's audio and analyzing it in an audio program using spectrogram mode reveals an interesting series of glyphs, the original hint towards the musical Tunic's existence. It turns out this being is trying to communicate with us, and this leaves me with a sense of uneasiness, a sense of dread wonder at what else may be left undiscovered, hidden within the world of Tunic. But putting all of that aside, I must set myself now to focus on that which I do know. That my knowledge, the knowledge of the manual, this knowledge gained after many hours of searching and thinking and fighting and contemplating, must be shared at long last. Finally, it is time to return to where my adventure truly began, the far shore. Entering once more into the arena, I find the air with her arms outstretched to the sky, no longer primed to attack. I approach softly, and she kneels down to greet me. She raises her hands to the sky again, grasping her sword to strike me down once more. But this time, she has stopped. Looking down, I have the manual open, ready to share my wisdom with her. She takes the book and reads its contents. Moved to tears. Suddenly, she turns a bright white color and is transformed. I find myself face to face with a wonderful new fox friend. There are two things I must do before I bid you farewell. When I collected the last page on the top of the mountain, the last time I received an achievement, you might have noticed that this put me at 34 out of 36 total achievements collected. It turns out I'm still missing 2. The first one is a funny one. Creating a brand new save file, I quickly enter a pattern into the Holy Cross from my manual to give myself a bomb. Oh, by the way, patterns exist in the manual to give yourself free bombs. I never really needed to use these before now because I hoard items obsessively. Anyways, continuing forward with my bomb, I pause for a quick moment to, modify some things which might prove useful. Look, I already beat the game. Haven't I earned a smidgen, just a tad bit of complete invincibility for that? Forging ahead, now impervious to damage, I toss my bomb to destroy the bushes blocking my path. Walking through the flames, I make sure to catch myself on fire, and I avoid rolling so as to not put myself out. With lots of enemies chasing me, I make my way over to the big green rat blocking my path. He keeps smacking me back, but with a stubborn pertinacity I approach and hug him tightly, catching him on fire as well. After a bit of waiting, he succumbs to the flames. From here it is a simple matter of making my way through the quarry, down to the lower levels, past the deadly crystals, onto the shooting range, where I open the chest while getting bombed, granting me the achievement, Bring It to the Wrong Fight, without even picking up the gun. I do eventually get the chest open, obtaining the gun before the sword, the true requirement for this achievement. I blast a couple of the rats for fun and celebration. 1 down, only 1 more to go. This last achievement requires me to hold 10 effigies at once, which are those little fox-shaped pots with coins in them. I actually ended the game with 7 of these because, again, I hoard items, finding what was the last one in the old swamp just before starting New Game Plus. But unfortunately, I didn't hoard hard enough, as the 3 I broke back at the beginning of the game meant that I now fall 3 short of holding the 10 I need. Luckily, the 7 I currently have carry over into New Game Plus. This means it is a simple matter of collecting just 3 more effigies, bringing my total up to the required 10. And with that, I received the 36th and final achievement of Tunic. Too cute to smash. And now, my cherished friends, our time in the land of Tunic is at an end. All that there is to do is done. Every achievement has been collected, and every task has been completed. Even those shrouded in mystery have been revealed and bested. Bosses conquered. Each world meticulously explored. Fairies freed. Secrets uncovered. Pages found. Languages deciphered and documented. And most importantly, friends made along the way. I thank you sincerely for joining me on this adventure. If you would like to follow me on my next one, I would welcome the company. But until such time as we may meet again, I bid you now a fond farewell.
What'd you do? What'd you do?
Yes! The pattern's different. So I just started in the middle and did arrows all the way to the end. It's a different pattern. Yes! Yes! It worked. Wow. I actually did not expect it to work.
Oh, but I want to know what the symbol means.
I actually did not expect it to work, this pattern.
You better play that triumphant music.
I think I'm just gonna take a little stroll inside here. I think I'm gonna take a little stroll.